Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Villain. Many children bring blessings, the heroines are broken. Chapter 41. Ding. Mu Bai is filled with hatred and anger, villain value plus 999. Ding. Mu Bai is terrified, villain value plus 888. Why don't you let me go? Of course it's because you are the protagonist. After a pause, Shu Liang changed his tone. I will not feel at ease unless you die. His smile was still as gentle as the spring breeze. But at this moment, both Peng Ming and Mu Bai felt a chill rushing straight from their tailbone to their brains. Although he did not quite understand what Shu Liang meant by the protagonist, Mu Bai was really scared when he heard the word, death. You want to kill me. No one can stay calm in the face of death. But gradually, his heart calmed down. Death is terrible, but what is more terrible than death is living a life worse than death. Thinking about the days he has lived these days, he has lived worse than a dog. If he had not hoped to develop a new battery, he would have given up long ago. Now, his enemy suddenly told him, everything you encounter is arranged by me, and everything you research is also for my benefit. He simply couldn't accept it. Suddenly, a gleam flashed in Mu Bai's eyes. Even if I die, I won't let you succeed. You can't get my research results. After saying that, he turned around and grabbed the USB flash drive. He wanted to destroy the technical information in it. He would never let Shu Liang succeed even if he died. But someone was one step faster than him, it was Peng Ming. He took the USB flash drive in his hand first. Then, in Mu Bai's confused eyes, he came to Shu Liang with the USB flash drive and tremblingly presented it. Xiaoming, you betrayed me. After a while, Mu Bai came back to his senses and looked at Peng Ming in disbelief. He finally knew why Shu Liang happened to appear when he succeeded in his research and development. It turned out that there was an insider. Shu Liang walked in without making any sound, probably because he didn't lock the door. They are brothers, best friends who have been together for 7 years. Mu Bai's eyes were blank, his face was dejected, and he was lost. Even if he knew that everything was planned by Shu Liang behind the scenes, he was not so heartbroken and angry. Ding. Mu Bai's mentality exploded, villain value plus 1000. Shu Liang handed the new battery and USB flash drive to his men, and watched this wonderful scene with interest. Why? Facing Mu Bai's hysterical questioning, Peng Ming was very ashamed. But thinking of Shu Liang's explanation, he had to speak. No reason, Mr. Shu gave me 100,000. Quote. Mu Bai vomited blood. You were bought off with 100,000 yuan. Our 7 years of relationship can't even be worth 100,000 yuan. Ding. Mu Bai's mentality exploded, villain value plus 1000. Of course not, let alone 100,000, even if it was 1 million or 10 million, Peng Ming would not betray. But Shu Liang used his family as a threat. And Shu Liang didn't give him 100,000 yuan. He was told to say these words. You are an ungrateful fool. Have you forgotten that I helped you clear your name when you were wrongly accused of touching a girl's butt and were ostracized? When you were a sophomore, something happened in your family. I took out a loan to help you through the difficult times. Junior. Mu Bai was like a madman. He was hit hard by the betrayal of his best friend. Every time he said a word, Peng Ming's heart trembled. At this moment, he wanted to tell the truth. But he didn't dare to think of something. He could only hold back his tears and trembled as he said those heartless words. Of course I haven't forgotten. In my heart, you are an idiot. I will find you anyway if I have any difficulties. I will find you when I need you, kick you away when you are useless, and I can get money by betraying you. Why not? Mu Bai was stunned. It turned out that he was an idiot and a clown in his brother's heart. He helped his classmates and did good things with passion, but he got such an evaluation in return. This made him feel like his faith had collapsed. For a moment, as if he had lost all his energy, Mu Bai collapsed to the ground, feeling as if he had lost all his energy. Ding. Mu Bai's mind collapsed, villain value plus 1000. Papa. At this time, a round of applause rang out. Shu Liang clapped his hands, with an interesting smile on his face. Excellent, it's rare for me to see such a good show, I won't kill you today. Seeing that he could no longer get villain value from Mu Bai, he was ready to leave. Peng Ming followed behind him and asked excitedly after leaving the laboratory. Mr. Shu, are you really going to let Brother Bai Mu Bai go? Of course, Shu Liang chuckled, impossible. Just as he said. That's the protagonist, who knows when he will turn over, I'm worried if I don't kill him. The reason why he hasn't taken action yet is just because he still has a little bit of luck. Shu Liang has already thought of how to give him a heavy blow. Hearing this, Peng Ming's face froze and he stood there in a daze. At this moment, Shu Liang activated his mind control skill. Swish! Peng Ming's body trembled. After a moment, he returned to normal, with a trace of confusion in his eyes. But he forgot what happened in the graduate school just now. Although what happened just now would not have any impact even if Peng Ming told others. But to be on the safe side, Shu Liang still let him forget it. On the one hand, it was also to test the ability of mind control. It seems that the effect is not bad. Peng Ming's mental strength is much weaker than his, and his mentality collapsed at this time, so he was controlled in an instant. He did not use the slave function. The reason is simple, Peng Ming is not qualified. In the laboratory, only Mu Bai stared at the ceiling absent-mindedly. Today's blow to him was too great for him to bear. Knowing that he was just a pawn and the results of his research and development were taken away, the last hope of the Mu family's rise was shattered. The betrayal of his best friend for 7 years and the words he said broke his heart. At night, Mu Bai dragged his tired body and walked on the street. His eyes were dull, and he felt that the road ahead was bleak, and he didn't know what to do next. Laughter could be heard from time to time around him. Human sorrows and joys are not the same, Mu Bai just felt that they were noisy. His heart was dead, but he couldn't die yet, because his father was waiting for him. As soon as he returned to the park, a figure with disheveled hair, no different from a beggar, rushed in front of him. Mu Bai was startled and came back to his senses from his confusion. Dad, Mu Feng was a little crazy, with a pair of eyes that seemed to want to kill, and grabbed his collar viciously. Did you offend the eldest son of the Shu family? Is it because of you that our Mu family is destroyed? Mu Bai didn't dare to look into his father's eyes, and lowered his head and didn't speak. Speak, Mu Feng roared angrily. In the end, Mu Bai nodded. Puff! Mu Feng spit out a mouthful of blood. Rebellious son. Rebellious son. After saying that, he was so angry that he fell backwards. Mu Bai was frightened and rushed to help his father, but found that his father had stopped breathing. He was dumbfounded. Was his father mad at him to death? Help! Someone is killing someone. At this time, 2 people passed by the park and happened to see a person vomiting blood and falling to the ground. They thought someone was killing someone and were scared. What the hell? What the hell? Call an ambulance, call the police. Ah, should I call the police first or the ambulance first? You've made me so confused. Not long after, the ambulance and police car arrived. Several doctors got off the car, and after a preliminary examination, the doctor shook his head. Mu Bai's last glimmer of hope was shattered. How could this happen? He was extremely self-blaming and regretful. If he hadn't gone to find Li Wanjin and hadn't met Shu Liang, would nothing have happened? Little did he know that his idea was still too naive. Shu Liang's layout was far beyond his imagination. When he knew that he was the protagonist, his fate had already been arranged. Seeing his father being taken to the ambulance, Mu Bai also wanted to follow, but was stopped by the police. Someone called the police and said, "You killed someone, now come with us." He was stupid. He wondered if he was deaf and heard it wrong. He is my father, would I kill him? Please come with me before the suspicion is lifted. Without giving him a chance to explain, several people rushed forward. Mu Bai was struggling, and suddenly he spit out a mouthful of blood, and his whole spirit was depressed. Ding! Mu Bai's mentality collapsed. Villain value plus 1000. Not far from here, a Rolls-Royce stopped by the roadside. In the car, Shu Liang watched Mu Bai being taken away. As the reminder sounded in his mind, he clearly saw that Mu Bai's luck had completely disappeared. In other words, from now on, Mu Bai is no longer the protagonist. It was just Shu Liang's random idea to let someone pass on the reason for the Mu family's bankruptcy to Mu Feng. Originally, he thought that he had to kill him in order to squeeze the protagonist's last luck, but he didn't expect that it was not necessary at all. Shu Liang fell into deep thought. Then should he still kill the protagonist? What about Mu Bai? After thinking for a while, he made a decision. Kill. Not to mention that he knew the new battery technology, even if there was an irreconcilable hatred between the two, he had to die. The grass must be cut off at the root. Although Mu Bai no longer had the ability to turn over, what if? Shu Liang would not allow any accidents to happen. Immediately began to order people to make arrangements. With his energy, it's too easy to make a person disappear without a sound. On the other side, the Starry Night Bar. This bar is very famous even in the whole Magic City. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, and it's not the time for nightlife to start yet, but many young people have gathered here. They are either hunting for beauty or looking for fun, and they are all happy. But there is one person who is different. He has been drinking, the kind that pours bottles after bottles into his stomach, which is particularly conspicuous. This guy has been drinking for 2 hours in a row. Isn't he afraid of sudden death? So awesome. Big brother, is he not drunk at all? Can't it be a fake bar? Hee. I advise you to speak softly. You dare to say that the wine is fake here. Do you want to die? Quote. Quote. The crowd whispered, some admired and some disdained. Another dozen. After drinking for 2 hours, Lin Hao was already drunk. After being driven out by Chen Zhangjia, he walked aimlessly on the street and passed by this bar unknowingly. It just so happened that he also wanted to get drunk. That's why the scene just now happened. Handsome guy, drinking alone is so boring, do you want someone to accompany you? A woman with heavy makeup and coquettish clothes sat next to Lin Hao. She also picked up the cup and poured herself a cup. Get lost. Lin Hao just glanced at her and said mercilessly. Having seen peerless beauties like Lu Ruolin and Chen Zhangjia, these rouge and vulgar powders did not interest him at all. Handsome guy, don't be so angry, I can help you calm down. I said, get lost, don't you understand what I'm saying? The coquettish woman was interrupted by Lin Hao before she finished speaking. You, wait for me. Her face was extremely ugly, she stamped her feet and glared at him fiercely. When has the most famous socialite ever suffered such grievances? Not long after, the socialite came back with a group of strong men, pointing at Lin Hao. He is the one who bullies others. The leading strong man had a fierce look in his eyes, and came to Lin Hao with a bad tone. It was you who bullied my girl. Lin Hao drank by himself and ignored him. Can't you hear me talking to you? The strong man slapped him on the back of his head. Lin Hao was a little confused, and he got angry when he saw him slap him again. He kicked the strong man 3 or 4 meters away. Kicked him so far, is he still a human being? Awesome. Didn't you know that the big brother is not only a heavy drinker, but also a better fighter? Isn't he the legendary martial arts master? I want to become his disciple. Quote. Quote. Hearing the discussions around him, the strong man was angry and forgot that this was not the place for him to run wild. Kill him for me. A group of younger brothers rushed forward. However, the faster they rushed up, the farther they flew away. After Lin Hao finished off a group of his followers with a few punches and 2 kicks, he continued to drink and get drunk. Just wait for me. Seeing him so fierce, the strong man was frightened, and left with a harsh word. The onlookers were shocked by Lin Hao's force, and there were endless exclamations. When Lin Hao was drinking vigorously, another middle-aged man came to him. Sir, I am the manager of the bar, and our boss wants to see you. See me. I have to go to see me. Let him come to me himself. As if thinking of something, Lin Hao's tone was full of resentment. The middle-aged manager was a little embarrassed, and just as he was about to say something, a voice came. You go back. The voice was cold and mixed with a hint of seductive charm. Just from the sound, people can't help but think of a stunning beauty. That's right, everyone looked in the direction of the sound, and a fascinating woman came slowly. She had a cold expression on her face, as if she was at the top, a queen high above, overlooking all living beings. But her eyes are full of charm, which makes her face look cool and charming. These two contradictory temperaments are presented on her, but they are not abrupt at all, which gives people a strong desire to conquer. She walks lightly, and her every move is charming, which makes people want to get close to her and feel the irresistible attraction. Xia Qingqiu, the owner of the Starry Night Bar and the founder of the Star Moon Club. 3 years ago, she came to the Magic City. One person built the second largest force in the Magic City from scratch, the Star Moon Club. She also became a generation of heroes, the queen of the underworld, and the name of Qingqiu, the Bloody Hand, resounded throughout the underground world of the Magic City. My God, what did I see? Sha Qingqiu actually showed up here. Wow, I came here every day just to see Queen Sha, and finally got what I wanted. She is so beautiful. Sha Qingqiu's temperament and style are not inferior to the female doctor. She is a natural queen. Quote. Quote. The crowd danced with excitement when they saw Sha Qingqiu appear. Many of them came here every day just to see Sha Qingqiu's peerless beauty. Lin Hao put down the bottle unconsciously, and he was also amazed by Sha Qingqiu. Her appearance was not inferior to that of the senior sister, and her temperament was even more attractive. From the discussions of the people around him, he knew the identity of the visitor, and couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Sha Qingqiu, isn't this his second senior sister? Second senior sister. Lin Hao shouted immediately. Huh, Sha Qingqiu frowned. She didn't know the identity of this person. It just happened that she saw Lin Hao take action in the surveillance video, and saw that he was extraordinary, so she was a little interested. Although Xingyu Club is now the second largest force in the Magic City, its situation is not very good. Especially in recent times, it has been at odds with the Wolf League. The Wolf League has been the first force in the Magic City for nearly 10 years, and no one can shake its position. Until the rise of Xingyu Club. Although Xingyu Club has only been established for 3 years, its strength is not weak at all. Especially the president Sha Qingqiu. Although he is not very old, his strength has reached the level of dark energy, which is the same level as the leader of the Wolf League. The strength of the top leaders is almost the same, and the people below are vulnerable, resulting in a stalemate between the two sides. Now the appearance of any master may affect the situation. Therefore, when she saw such a master appear in her bar, she came down to take a look. Unexpectedly, this guy actually called her the second senior sister. Wait, I remember that the master sent her a letter some time ago. She roughly read it and asked her to take care of the little junior brother. But at that time, I was busy dealing with the Wolf Alliance, so I didn't pay attention. It seems that this is the junior brother. Sha Qingqiu's eyes flashed with a strange color. Come upstairs with me. Lin Hao followed Sha Qingqiu and went up to the second floor in the shocked eyes of everyone. What the hell did I hear? That big brother actually called Queen Sha the second senior sister. No wonder he is so powerful. Envy, I also want to have such a senior sister. Second floor, living room. Sha Qingqiu took the tea handed over by his subordinates, took a sip, and then looked at Lin Hao. Are you Lin Hao, my junior brother? She frowned slightly. Lin Hao's image is not very good now. His hair is like a chicken coop, his clothes are sloppy, his spirit is listless, and he is full of alcohol, just like a homeless person outside. To be honest, if he wasn't a master and called her the second senior sister, Sha Qingqiu would have had him thrown out long ago. Yes, second senior sister. Lin Hao felt that the look in the second senior sister's eyes when she looked at him was somewhat familiar. Just like the look Chen Zhangjia gave him when she went to pick him up before. Why are you in this state? Sha Qingqiu was a little disappointed. She was actually happy for a while, thinking that this junior brother was a master and that there was hope for dealing with the Wolf Alliance. How could he be a master with such a sloppy look? Lin Hao didn't dare to hide similar questions this time. He didn't want Xu Liang to deceive the second senior sister again. Immediately, he told the whole story. From the time he came down the mountain to the Magic City, until he was driven out by the senior sister Chen Zhangjia to get drunk. As he spoke, he, a grown man, choked up. It was really too difficult. The engagement was broken off, the fiancée was pregnant, she was slapped away, she was electrotherapy in a small dark room, and she watched her senior sister gradually become someone else's shape. If he hadn't spent 6 years in the mountains and tempered his iron will, he would have collapsed long ago. Xu Liang. Sha Qingqiu looked solemn. When she heard that her senior sister Chen Zhangjia was deceived, she was still furious and ready to take revenge. The three of them studied together in the mountains, and they were like sisters. Even when they went down the mountain, they often contacted each other. But when she learned that the man was Xu Liang, she was silent. She should protect herself first. She naturally knew Shu Liang, not only knew him but also was very familiar with him. He came to her door more than once, openly and secretly asking her to be his woman. Indeed, Shu Liang not only came from a big family, but was also very outstanding. Not to mention his appearance, the national husband is modest, and the national husband is not much less. He has a gentle temperament, treats people with elegance and ease, and has no dandy airs from a big family. He inherited the Shu Group at a young age. Although it is a branch in Shanghai, it also controls hundreds of billions of funds. Such a man is simply a perfect partner. But Sha Qingqiu always feels that Shu Liang is pretending. There is no evidence, just a woman's sixth sense. He is too perfect, so perfect that it feels unreal. Facts have proved that her sixth sense was right. When he met her several times before, his attitude was always elegant and easygoing. Then, his true colors gradually revealed themselves. How could she know that there were other women waiting for him to join the family? How could Shu Liang tolerate her playing Tai Chi all the time? If there was not a heroine in the final stage of the strategy at that time, he would have used some extraordinary means on her. Every time Shu Liang came to her before, Sha Qingqiu would fool him with smooth means. The last time, she could feel that Shu Liang's patience was exhausted. These days, Sha Qingqiu has been feeling uneasy. Did you really go to Sha Qingqiu's place? Shu Liang raised his eyebrows slightly, his eyes flickered, and he didn't know what plan he was brewing. While thinking, he stroked Li Wanjin's head with his hand, feeling her sharp tongue. The news of Mu Bai's death came not long ago. When he was temporarily detained in the detention center, a mentally ill person suddenly attacked and accidentally killed him. Of course, this is all the information shown on the surface. As for the truth, it is always hidden in the dark and will disappear completely with the passage of time. The protagonist is dead, so Shu Liang must come to comfort the heroine. Patting her head, Li Wanjin understood immediately and stood up to hold the chair. There are many heroines in this world, and there should be no shortage of protagonists, waiting for him to deal with them one by one. Shu Liang is very busy. Afternoon, under the shade of trees in the community. Shu Liang rubbed his chin and looked at the pond, where several fish were chasing and playing with each other. Standing next to him was a middle-aged man with a calm face, slightly bent over and with a very low posture. The eyes that looked at Shu Liang were full of respect. I gave you something, do you know what to do with it? Understood, I will do my best to produce and put it into use, so as not to disappoint you. The middle-aged man quickly promised. If anyone who knew him saw this scene, they would be horrified. There is no other reason. This is the CEO of Galaxy Group, who has accomplished the miracle of making a group stand on top of the world within a few months. It was such a being, but he was trembling and submissive in front of a young man. This scene is simply dreamlike. It's just that the world doesn't know that these are just given to him by Shu Liang. If someone is unhappy, one word can send him from heaven to hell. Shu Liang called him over, firstly to give him the new battery technology, and secondly to listen to the group's work report. You go ahead. Yes. The middle-aged man resigned respectfully and left. It didn't take long before his forehead was already covered with fine sweat, and his back was covered in cold sweat. The pressure is just too much. Despite Shu Liang's gentle appearance, especially his smile makes people feel like a spring breeze. But only those who truly know him will know. Hidden under this smile is what kind of bloody storm. At least, there are dozens of people who died directly or indirectly because of him. The appearance of an angel, the heart of a devil. It is the best interpretation of Shu Liang. Brother Liang. Li Wanjin ran over panting. After eating just now, Shu Liang asked to go for a walk, while she cleared away the dishes. After cleaning up, she hurried out, fearing that Shu would have to wait for a long time. Today Shu Liang promised her to accompany her to the hospital to see her mother. Shu Liang looked away from the pond, his aura was still gentle. Let's go. A Rolls-Royce stopped in front of me. The female bodyguard opened the car door, and the two of them got into the car one after another. The First People's Hospital of Shanghai. It is the largest hospital in Shanghai, with the best medical conditions and the most advanced medical equipment. During this period, traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine were at odds with each other, and it was affected to some extent, but not significantly. There are so many people getting sick every day, and Baekhyotang is simply too busy. The greatest impact is on those purely Western hospitals. They united to suppress Baekhyotang. Fortunately, the suppression was successful, but they were stepped on to rise. Anyone who is worried about a family member getting cancer wants to stay away from them. The only possibility waiting for them is to close their doors. When Xu Liang and the two arrived, someone was already waiting for him at the door. Chen Zhangjia was a little confused. Xu Liang sent her a message in the morning and asked her to come here to treat a patient. Why didn't Xu Liang take action himself? If you want to know your own acupuncture techniques, he taught them step by step. It was a little strange, but she came anyway. Seeing the familiar car approaching, a bright smile appeared on her face. As a newlywed, it was time for you and me to be together, and she also wanted to stay with Xu Liang. However, when she saw a beautiful woman getting out of the car with Xu Liang, the smile on her face froze. Didn't I keep you waiting long? Xu Liang said with a smile as he brought Li Wanjin to Chen Zhangjia. Chen Zhangjia shook his head and looked a little pale. It's the goddess doctor. Next to her, Li Wanjin exclaimed. In the car, Xu Liang told her that he would help her cure her mother. At that time, she was still a little confused. Her mother had cancer and she needed to be treated by a goddess doctor. It's not like Li Wanjin never thought of asking her for treatment. But she is so famous now, countless people are looking for her, and appointments are scheduled for several years. Out of her unconditional trust in Xu Liang, she did not question it. Now, seeing the goddess doctor Chen Zhangjia, she was very excited. Then he looked at Xu Liang, with deep love in his eyes. Unexpectedly, Xu Liang invited the goddess doctor for her. This scene happened to be seen by Chen Zhangjia. An indescribable taste came to my heart, bitter, heartache, discomfort, all kinds of mixed flavors. But she could bear it. She has worked hard to revive traditional Chinese medicine since she was a child, but her endurance is far from ordinary. Xu Liang took everything in his eyes, with a faint smile on his face. That's right, he caused the situation in front of him intentionally. Otherwise, with his medical skills, Li Wanjin's mother's cancer was still in its early stages, and he could have easily cured it. Call Chen Zhangjia over and let her see this scene, just to make her prepare in advance. She has other women, and she cannot keep them alone. She will know sooner or later anyway, so why not face reality sooner? This was undoubtedly very cruel to Chen Zhangjia, who had just lost her virginity to him. I gave you the most important thing yesterday, and today you appeared in front of me with another woman. One can imagine how she feels now. And when she learned that the person she was asked to save was the woman's mother, her heart ached even more. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. After curing the person, Chen Zhangjia found an excuse to leave, not caring about Li Wanjin's thanks. Looking at her back, Li Wanjin was thoughtful. She is not a fool. Just now, she was just worried about her mother's condition, so she didn't notice the change in Chen Zhangjia's expression. I always feel that this scene is a little familiar. It's the same as when she knew Xu Liang had other women. However, under the impact of Xu Liang, she recognized the reality. This man is too strong, and she can't bear it alone. Brother Liang, can you go and accompany her? It was precisely because she knew how she felt at the time that Li Wanjin couldn't bear it, and looked at Xu Liang and said. She will get used to it. Xu Liang's face was full of confidence. Chen Zhangjia is not a submissive woman like Li Wanjin, who can surrender after a few hours of confrontation. But it can't be difficult for him. He also has different countermeasures for dealing with heroines with different personalities. For a woman with a strong personality like Chen Zhangjia, it is necessary to cut the Gordian knot quickly. If the truth is revealed after a while, or someone tells her the truth first, it will be more difficult. This is also the main reason for her to face reality early, making the storm more violent. At night, Wolf Walk World Nightclub, the largest midnight carnival venue in Shanghai. Few people know that this is also the headquarters of the Wolf Alliance. The Wolf Alliance is the largest underground organization in the Magic City. In the past 20 years, no one has shaken its status. Their purpose is A wolf travels 1,000 miles to eat meat, a dog travels 1,000 miles to eat shit. The first requirement for joining the Wolf League is to be ruthless. It's better to be a little more ruthless than ruthless. At this time, a depressing atmosphere enveloped the place. The senior leaders of the Wolf Alliance, including the leader of the Wolf Alliance, Zhang Xiaoyu, were standing at the door with solemn faces. It seemed like he was waiting for some big shot. I don't know how long I waited, but a Rolls-Royce came slowly and stopped at the door. When they saw the figure getting out of the car, a group of people came forward to greet him. Master Shu. Shu Liang smiled and nodded. Then, surrounded by everyone, he walked into the top floor of the nightclub. Arriving at the living room, he unceremoniously sat down at the main seat. I wonder why young Master Shu came to my place. Zhang Xiaoyu looked confused and asked aloud. Oh, it's nothing. Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. I just thought of an interesting game and planned to recruit a dog to participate. I think the Wolf Alliance is quite suitable. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was stunned. What? Let our Wolf Alliance be dogs? So bold, why does he have it? Just because he is the eldest son of the Shu family. If you don't agree, I will never agree. Leader, please don't agree. Quote. After a moment of silence, the whole place was in an uproar, and all the senior officials were filled with anger. Letting the Wolf Alliance be treated like dogs, doesn't it mean treating them like dogs? Those who can stand here are all werewolves, how can they bear this anger? Each one of them glared at Shu Liang, their auras erupted, and the atmosphere was very depressing. Among them, one person said nothing and looked on coldly. Only when he looked at Shu Liang, the enthusiasm in his eyes was undisguised. Xiaoyu, leader of the Wolf Alliance, felt her heart sink and her face looked extremely ugly. Over the years, he has become accustomed to being the boss, and has countless people fawning over him wherever he goes. When did anyone dare to talk to him like that? Not to mention treating him like a dog. It can be said, if Shu Liang's identity wasn't taken into consideration, he would definitely have someone take action and cut his body into pieces. Taking a deep breath, suppressing the anger in his heart, his tone became colder. Sorry, we in the Wolf Alliance are wolves, we cannot be dogs. He led a group of senior officials out to greet Shu Liang, which was to give the Shu family face. I didn't expect Shu Liang to be so ignorant. In this case, there is no need for him to be polite. If Shu Liang wants to attack him, the Wolf Alliance is not a vegetarian. Over the years, he has sacrificed a lot of the interests of the Wolf Alliance and secretly given countless benefits. When trouble comes, those people will not just sit back and ignore it. There is also something that makes him not afraid of Shu Liang. That is, the Shu family's focus has shifted to the imperial capital, and Shu Liang is now the only one in the demonic capital. As the saying goes, the sky is high and the emperor is far away. A strong dragon will not overwhelm a local snake. That's it, it's a pity. After looking at the magnificent buildings around him, Shu Liang clicked his tongue. I don't know whether I feel regretful that I didn't accept the Wolf Alliance as a dog, or I feel regretful that everything around me will disappear into thin air. Originally, he had imagined a game against Sha Qingqiu, and the Wolf Alliance was a good chess piece. Since the Wolf Alliance didn't agree, they had no choice but to give up. Dare to reject him, it must be said that the Wolf Alliance is very courageous, he has not been rejected by anyone for who knows how long. Glancing at the two bodyguards beside him, only Ming Jin was at his peak. He felt that it was time to replace a group of bodyguards. Before, I was worried that after the plot started, it would be wiped out because of too many changes. In addition, since his own strength was enough to cope with everything, he sent those masters out. Now that he no longer has that worry, he can also summon some people back. The bodyguards around me are too weak and I feel like I'm not showing up. If you dare to reject him, you must be willing to bear the consequences. There is no need for the Wolf Alliance to exist anymore. Shu Liang got up and walked towards the door. He couldn't give up on the interesting game he had in mind. If the Wolf Alliance passes, then support a new force. It's easy for him too. It just takes a few days. The senior executives looked at Shu Liang's leaving figure with resentment in their eyes, but no one made any move. I'll see Mr. Shu off. After giving them a sarcastic look, a charming woman stood up and chased Shu Liang. After leaving the nightclub, Shu Liang was thinking about which force to support when a voice came from behind. Master Shu. Shu Liang turned around and saw a charming woman running over in a hurry. Mr. Shu, my name is Yi Yuan, and I am one of the 4 deputy leaders of the Wolf Alliance. She came to the front and immediately introduced herself. In addition to leader Xiaoyu, the Wolf Alliance also has 4 deputy leaders, each of whom has peak Ming Jin strength. Shu Liang said nothing and looked at her calmly, waiting for the next step. I think the leader is wrong. Yi Yuan was excited and fanatical. Shu Liang suddenly became interested. How could a group of idiots know your greatness? They dared to reject you without knowing what's good for them. They have already found a way to die. After a pause, Yi Yuan actually knelt down directly. It is their honor to be your dog. I am willing to be your loyal dog and follow you. Her tone was pious, without any disguise. Shu Liang's eyes were calm. This woman is a bit pretty, but unfortunately she is not the heroine, and her appearance is not up to the level of the heroine. He is not interested. There are many people who want to be my dog, but I am not interested in you. After saying that, Shu Liang was ready to leave. Yi Yuan was anxious. Suddenly, she thought of the game Shu Liang had mentioned before, and said quickly. Don't you have a game for the Wolf League to participate in? I can lead the Wolf League to be your dog. Shu Liang paused, looking very interested. He wanted to find an obedient force. Other forces needed him to cultivate, and the Wolf League was ready. If the Wolf Alliance is obedient, there is no need to destroy it. Just you alone. There are 3 vice leaders like you, and there is another leader above. Can you convince them? Seeing the effect, Yi Yuan breathed a sigh of relief and replied. You don't need disobedient dogs. Since those idiots are ignorant, I will help you kill them. When she said this, her tone did not change at all. It seemed that she was not talking about killing companions, killing brothers who lived and died together, but about killing a chicken. Interesting. Shu Liang felt more and more interesting. This time he did not refuse. It depends on how far this vice leader of the Wolf Alliance can go. Looking forward to your performance. Looking at Shu Liang's back as he walked away, Yi Yuan slowly stood up. The fanaticism in her eyes did not diminish at all. I won't let you down. Why is she so fanatical about Shu Liang? Let's start from a few months ago. Yi Yuan was responsible for the intelligence of the Wolf Alliance. At that time, she was responsible for investigating the underground training ground on the outskirts of the Demon City, and many mysterious people appeared. As a local snake of the underground organization in Shanghai. If such a place suddenly appears, of course we must investigate it clearly. However, she sent waves of people there, but could not find any information. When people continued to investigate further, there was no news about those people, and they were most likely dead. From then on, she no longer dared to investigate in depth, and could only start with the single person. But these people were well hidden, covered in black robes, and no one knew who they were. By chance, she caught a glimpse of Shu Liang. So, she asked people to investigate Shu Liang, hoping to get clues. The result was undoubtedly nothing. But she didn't give up and sent people to investigate further, but they disappeared again. A flash of inspiration suddenly occurred. Could there be any relationship between the two? Could it be that Shu Liang built the underground training ground? It happened that Skynet was born at this time, and the power it displayed frightened the dark world and made the whole world tremble. Then came the Galaxy Group. The genetic medicine liquid it produced made countless people crazy, and countless forces sent people to investigate. The Wolf Alliance was no exception, and they were sent by her again. The result was the same as the previous 2 times, all those sent died. Maybe others don't think it's a big deal. The eldest son of the Shu family, Galaxy Group, and Skynet have no connection at all. But she was very imaginative. Could it be Shu Liang, or it could be that the Shu family developed the genetic medicine and established the Galaxy Group. He also secretly trained countless masters and established Skynet. As soon as this thought came to her mind, her breathing became rapid and her heartbeat accelerated. A strong throbbing came over my heart. One stands on top of the world, using heaven and earth as a chessboard, and all living beings as chess pieces. A vague figure with all control at the palm of her hand appeared in her mind. Just a guess made her extremely crazy and fascinated, and her whole body trembled. I feel like my blood is boiling all over my body. I'm so excited that I'm shaking all over, and I want to surrender immediately to that person's feet. Today, facing Shu Liang at close range, his otherworldly temperament gradually made the blurry figure in her heart clear. So there was the scene just now. She was willing to kill all her brothers and friends just to have them by her side. Not to mention surrendering at his feet and killing everyone in the Wolf Alliance for him, she was willing to let her die. That person is so fascinating. On the other side, Shu Liang sat in the car and looked at the tablet computer, which contained all the information about Yi Yuan. From birth to now, what happened, who she came into contact with, and a dedicated psychologist analyzed her character. After reading it, he raised his eyebrows slightly. Did you think of something? According to the information, Yi Yuan investigated him, the Underground Coliseum, and the Galaxy Group. At that time, he also received news that the Wolf Alliance was investigating and asked him how to deal with it. But at that time, he was worried that it would affect the plot, so he didn't take action. However, he never leaves any evidence behind his work, and there is no possibility of finding him. It should just be the association of Yi Yuan. There is no evidence, just a guess. This woman's mental illness is somewhat serious. Through Yi Yuan's information, a psychiatrist evaluated her character. She is a woman who is very good at fantasy and loves to be strong. It's no wonder what she did just now. How to deal with it? Shu Liang pondered. Yi Yuan had no evidence that he was the one behind the scenes, but he could guess part of it. As cautious as he is, he will naturally not allow such an unstable factor to exist. This was such a talented person, it would be a pity to kill him. Then try the effect of mind control. Pixing Xingdaiyu Bar. It's only 8 o'clock in the evening, but there are already many people pouring in. Just because Sha Qingqiu showed up at the bar last night. When the news spread, countless people flocked to the place. Everyone wants to see the Mafia Queen. Not only ordinary people came to see the beauty, but also attracted a group of young men. In a private room on the second floor, a group of young people wearing famous brands and having good temperament gathered together. Yes, they also came for Sha Qingqiu. These young men may not have the ability, and they are the first to waste their money. But when it comes to beauties, each of them is very energetic. Young Master Lu looks like he has a weak kidney. How many women have you changed recently? Ha ha ha, Brother Zhuang, not to mention the second brother, I heard that you have adopted a pair of sisters. Can you stand it? Ha, I only know women every day, and I die on a woman's belly every day. Young Master Tan, you are noble and awesome. Then why do you come with us to see Queen Sha? This is my first time in the Magic City. I heard that Queen Sha is no worse than that goddess doctor. Is it true? Then she is really a goddess. Zhang Han, if you want to die, get out of here, don't get us involved. You dare to set your sights on Liang Ji's woman. You really don't know how to write the word, death. Quote. Originally, the private room was full of people chatting and laughing, and the scene was harmonious, but suddenly it became tense. A group of people couldn't help but move away from the young man named Zhang Han, looking at him as if they were looking at a dead person. Zhang Han, who am I? What did I do? What did I say? Didn't I just say that the female doctor was beautiful? And I haven't finished my sentence yet. Seeing that he didn't mean it, someone explained the reason. It turned out that a young man had said a few bad things about Shu Liang's woman behind his back, and his family was killed that night. That young man is still a beggar in the slums. Hearing the explanation, Zhang Han was scared and sweaty, his hair stood on end, and he was terrified. At this moment, a young man broke in. Stop bragging, Queen Sha has appeared. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A group of young men suddenly stood up and rushed out. They were now on the second floor, and from this angle, they could just have a panoramic view of the scene on the first floor. At this moment, the originally noisy hall seemed very quiet, and you could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared at the door in front with wide eyes, full of expectation. Not long after, dressed in a long dress, elegant and dignified, charming and enchanting, with a queen-like temperament, Sha Qingqiu slowly walked in. Sha Qingqiu was still so radiant. Next to her was a pretty girl with short ear-length hair, wearing a shirt and tight pants, looking extremely capable. She was guarding Sha Qingqiu like a bodyguard. Many people wanted to get closer, but retreated after seeing her cold gaze. As for Lin Hao next to him, he was ignored by them unconsciously. He was really unremarkable. Wow, it's really Queen Xia. I finally met her in person. She is indeed unrivaled in beauty. No matter how many times I watch it, I never get tired of it. If I marry someone home, who will get out of bed? What the hell? Who is that guy? Is he going to confess his love to Queen Xia? Suddenly, a figure broke into their field of vision, and they all looked at it intently. I saw him wearing a suit, with a fashionable hairstyle, and dressed like a dog, walking towards Xia Qingqiu with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. Ji Bochang was born in the Ji family. Although he was not as good as the four major families, he still had tens of billions of assets. It's just that his identity is a bit embarrassing. He is the second son of the Ji family. There is an elder brother above him, Ji Bochu, who is more capable than him. It is almost impossible for him to inherit the family property, unless foreign support is found. However, those who have the strength and intention to cooperate will seek out his eldest brother, while he is ignored by others. At this time, he heard that Xia Qingqiu was not only beautiful, but also very capable. If you can pursue her, not only can he get a stunning beauty, but he can also get the support of the Xingyu Society, the second largest force on the Demon City Road. So he started pursuing the dog skin plaster model. He had failed several times before, but this time he was well prepared. When he came to Xia Qingqiu, several younger brothers appeared one step ahead. A heart shape composed of 999 roses has been arranged, with a large diamond in the middle worth at least tens of millions. There was also a band set up nearby. A song full of sweet love sounded. Qingqiu, I have liked you for a long time, please be my girlfriend. Ji Bochang knelt down on one knee, handed the flower in his hand to Xia Qingqiu, and said in a sincere tone. Who is he? A toad wants to eat swan meat, but he doesn't even bother to urinate and look in the mirror. Pursuing Queen Xia, is he worthy? How much is he worthy of? Ha ha, what age are you now, and you still want to use this method to force me into the palace? It's an old trick. Quote. Seeing someone pursuing the goddess, the crowd of onlookers immediately stopped, and everyone spoke mercilessly. Question mark. Ji Bochang. He really wanted to use this to force Xia Qingqiu to agree. Isn't that how it's done on TV? This is also what is written in the novel. Every one of them embraces the beauty in the end. Why is it different when you come here? Judging from the reactions of the people around him, are you still saying, promise him, and kiss him? Everyone wanted to tear him into pieces. Second floor. A group of young men watched the good show and gloated. Tisk tisk, it turns out to be Ji Bochang. I didn't realize that this kid is very quick to strike. This is due to the pressure from his brother Ji Bochu. Preparing to recruit Xingyu will be his help. It's a pity that it's destined to fail. Queen Xia even rejected the three young masters. I heard that brother Liang also pursued her without success. What the hell, real or fake? Otherwise, get your melon seeds and peanuts ready and wait for him to be slapped in the face. Xia Qingqiu's face looked a little ugly. She has rejected this guy several times, and this time she forced him in front of so many people. If she hadn't taken into account the other party's identity, she wouldn't have bothered to pay attention. In this current situation, she was a little embarrassed. The answer is that it is impossible to agree, and it would not be good to refuse directly. The Xingyu society is now in a critical period, and it is not suitable to make enemies, let alone a big family like the Ji family. Seemingly sensing her embarrassment, Lin Hao took a step forward. Brother, don't you see? Qingqiu doesn't like you, so you should go find those little fairies. He was not worried about whether it was a big family, but he was very angry, and his tone was not polite at all. Seeing such a scene, he couldn't help but think of Xu Liang's senior sister, and he was so angry that he was separated from the wall. What are you? Ji Bochang stood up, and the sounds coming from around him made him a little angry. Lin Hao's words directly ignited his anger, and he pointed at his nose and cursed. Brother, who the hell is your brother? Also, you also called me Qingqiu. What a stupid thing. Lin Hao looked gloomy and was about to teach this guy a lesson when a long voice sounded. It's quite lively here. The familiar voice made his heart skip a beat. Slowly turning his head, he saw the figure that made him want to kill him quickly. Sha Qingqiu's body trembled slightly. What was supposed to come eventually came. After being attracted by Ji Bocheng's confession just now, many people noticed it. I don't know when, there was a troubled young man next to me. Shu Liang had a gentle smile on his face and his eyes fell on Ji Bocheng, who was as quiet as ice. The name of Shu Liang is known to the upper circles. 4 words, don't provoke. Although Ji Bocheng is a playboy, he dare not act rashly in front of Shu Liang, just like a mouse seeing a cat, trembling. Go away. The faint words sounded, Ji Bocheng shuddered, and hurriedly prepared to leave in disgrace. But he was stopped by Shu Liang. Come back. Ji Bocheng showed a smile that was uglier than crying. Liang, brother Liang, take these garbage away, and... After a pause, Shu Liang slowly walked a few steps closer and patted his shoulder. She is my prey, understand? Understand, understand. Ji Bocheng was sweating profusely, his hair stood up, and his back was soaked with cold sweat. Because the distance was relatively close, Lin Hao and Sha Qingqiu heard it, and their faces kept changing. Sha Qingqiu's heart sank. Shu Liang really stopped hiding. How should she deal with it? Lin Hao immediately became furious, glaring, shaking all over, and was so angry that he exploded. If eyes could kill, Shu Liang would have turned to ashes by now. He knew Shu Liang was a scumbag, but he didn't expect him to be so scumbag. He was simply a scumbag to a new level. He just slept with the eldest sister, and now he found the second sister. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but blame himself. It was all his fault that the eldest sister was harmed. Ding. Lin Hao is resentful of you, villain value plus 999. Ding. Lin Hao has self-doubt, villain value plus 888. After asking his younger brother to collect the flowers on the ground, Ji Bocheng rolled over. It was so scary. I didn't expect Sha Qingqiu to be the woman Shu Liang liked. Competing with brother Liang for a woman, isn't that like turning on the light in the toilet, looking for death? Who is he? So handsome and elegant, and I feel so warm when he smiles. Don't say. I don't feel any disobedience when he stands with Queen Sha, a handsome man and a beautiful woman. I know, I know. There are 4 major families in Demon City. Do you know why there are only 3 young masters? Because there is another one who is superior to the 3 young masters, or in other words, the 3 young masters are not qualified to be compared with him. That's right. He is the eldest son of the Shu family, Shu Liang, and there is no young generation who doesn't call him brother Liang when he sees him. Quote. Everyone was shocked by Shu Liang's appearance and temperament. Almost all the women present were so excited that they couldn't close their legs. Even men felt ashamed in front of him and couldn't feel jealous. Without paying attention to Lin Hao's murderous look, Shu Liang smiled at Sha Qingqiu. Would you like to invite me up to sit? Taking a deep breath, Sha Qingqiu calmed down and gestured. Mr. Shu, please. Then the 2 of them went upstairs together. Lin Hao followed closely behind, and if Shu Liang had any ill intentions, he would immediately stop him. Although he also knew that it was useless. As soon as he went up to the 2nd floor, he met a group of young masters. How could these young masters still be as cheerful and talkative as before? They looked like elementary school students who had made mistakes and were waiting for the teacher to criticize them. Hello, brother Liang. Shu Liang smiled and nodded, and went straight to the 3rd floor with Sha Qingqiu. Seeing that they did not mean to blame them, the group of people finally breathed a sigh of relief, and many people had cold sweat on their foreheads. In fact, they also knew that, as long as they did not offend Shu Liang, he would be a gentleman in the world who was elegant and easygoing. If they offended him, he would still be gentle and elegant on the surface, but his means would be chilling. Killing people while chatting and laughing, that's what it means. 3rd floor, Sha Qingqiu's office. Except Shu Liang, no other man has come in. When he entered the door, he paused and looked at Sha Qingqiu. I don't want anyone to disturb our good things. Sha Qingqiu had a bad premonition in his heart, but he had to do what he wanted. You guys go down. The female follower glared at Shu Liang hatefully, and walked to the side unwillingly to sulk. It's not that she didn't think about protecting her master, but she was really helpless against Shu Liang and had no power to fight back. Lin Hao didn't leave, his face was extremely ugly. When he was attacking the senior sister before, he still had the image of a gentleman. Are you not hiding it now? What should he do? Gradually, Lin Hao's eyes became firm. Even if he is not Shu Liang's opponent, he can't let the second senior sister be bullied. Fight. He doesn't seem to listen to you. Shu Liang looked at him with interest, with a teasing look. Lin Hao, I told you to go down. Sha Qingqiu pursed his lips and ordered again. Lin Hao still did not move, his eyes fixed on Shu Liang. Shu Liang, what are you going to do? Come to me if you have anything. Tisk, why do you have to force me to do it? Shu Liang said lightly, and he made a move, extending 2 fingers. Lin Hao had been on guard against him for a long time, and when he saw him make a move, he hurriedly dodged. But he soon found that an opportunity locked him and he couldn't hide at all. No matter how he roared in his heart, he could only watch Shu Liang's fingers approach and tap him several times. An extreme sense of weakness came over him, and he fell to the ground. Okay, no one will disturb us now. Shu Liang smiled slightly, and his words were plain, as if he had just done something insignificant. Sha Qingqiu's pupils contracted. Through the inquiry, she also knew that this junior brother was not only not weak, but also very strong. The strength reached the peak of dark energy. But he was taken down without any resistance. How strong is Shu Liang? He is definitely not an ordinary master of Huajin. She did not dare to resist, and followed Shu Liang into the office. Lin Hao's eyes bulged, and he was furious. He never expected that he would be knocked down by acupuncture points after studying medicine for 6 years. He never expected that there would be a day when he would be acupunctured. As Shu Liang asked the door to be closed, he could no longer see the two of them. Ding! Lin Hao was shivering, villain value plus 888. Shu Liang sat on the sofa without considering himself an outsider. Seeing Sha Qingqiu standing there in a daze, he hooked his finger. Come here. Sha Qingqiu frowned. From the beginning, she felt that Shu Liang was completely different from before. He completely stopped hiding in front of her. Facing such Shu Liang, she felt panic for no reason. After hesitating for a while, she came to the sofa and sat down, keeping a safe distance from Shu Liang. Why are you sitting so far away? It makes me look like a bad guy. Sha Qingqiu actually hoped that he was a bad guy, because bad guys are not as bad as him. The next moment, a hand reached out, and she, who was in the early stage of dark power, was held by the waist before she could react. With a little force, she couldn't help but fall into an embrace. That's right, Shu Liang is completely done pretending. He is not one of those licking dogs, and he will not be led by a woman by the nose. To make him feel like spring breeze, the premise is to give you face, you have to continue. As mentioned before, his patience is limited. There are other heroines waiting for him, why would he keep dawdling on a heroine? Since you don't want to give face, then just show your cards. I just don't know, can you withstand the means after he shows his cards? Reaching out his hand, lifting her chin, and raising her cold but charming face. Seeing a hint of stubbornness in her eyes, Shu Liang chuckled. How about we play a game? As cold as Sha Qingqiu, when has she ever been so close to a man, or held in his arms? Her face was filled with shame and anger, and her beautiful eyes seemed to be spitting fire. If you win, I will let you go and never harass you again. What game? Sha Qingqiu was stunned. Facing Shu Liang in this state, she was really a little scared. When she heard that she could get out of this situation, she asked hurriedly. As for the game, I represent the Wolf League and compete with your Xingyu Club to see who is the first force in the Magic City. Sha Qingqiu turned her head away. You can control me by yourself, how can this be played? She might as well admit defeat directly. As if seeing her thoughts, Shu Liang continued to speak. Don't worry, I won't take action, nor will I send people to help the Wolf League. Are you serious? Sha Qingqiu turned her head back and stared at Shu Liang. Who am I to break my promise? Sha Qingqiu fell into deep thought. Now the Xingyu Club is about the same strength as the Wolf League, but she is still confident that she can win. Isn't there a junior brother coming? Lin Hao was vulnerable in front of Shu Liang, but he was indeed a top dark power master, and he had a great chance of winning. And this might be the only chance to get rid of Shu Liang's entanglement, and she didn't want to miss it. Gritting her teeth, Sha Qingqiu agreed. Okay, I promise you. Shu Liang smiled, and his smile was hard to understand. He was still a little naive. Perhaps she was eager to get rid of Shu Liang, but she didn't think of some things. He said he wouldn't take action, and he wouldn't let anyone help the Wolf Alliance, but he didn't say he wouldn't consume her power. Besides, it doesn't matter if the Wolf Alliance loses. Does he, Shu Liang, look like a man who keeps his word? Whether you win or lose, you can't escape his palm. By the way, what if I lose? Sha Qingqiu asked nervously. If you lose, you and the entire Xingyu club will all submit to me. Seeing the smile on Shu Liang's lips, her heart trembled. Suddenly she regretted agreeing to his game. Okay, we've discussed the game, let's both stamp it, as a ceremony to reach an agreement. What does that mean? When Sha Qingqiu came to her senses, Shu Liang's face was already close at hand. The next moment, her eyes widened. Needless to say, teasing the underworld queen was quite interesting, and Shu Liang never tired of it. Sha Qingqiu was ashamed and angry, but she didn't dare to take action, so she could only endure her grievances. I just like the way you can't stand me and can't kill me. When Shu Liang came out, it was already half an hour later. Outside, Lin Hao felt that his strength was slowly recovering and he could try to relieve his acupuncture points. He was so anxious that his clothes were soaked with sweat. The two of them were alone in the same room. He was afraid that the second senior sister would be bullied like the senior sister. Suddenly, the door opened. He quickly looked around and saw Shu Liang coming out. Then he left without even looking at him. Lin Hao was so angry. Ding! Lin Hao's mentality exploded, villain plus 999. He worked harder to unblock the acupoints and wanted to check on the second senior sister's condition. There is someone faster than him. The short-haired girl dodged and rushed in. When he saw Sha Qingqiu sitting on the sofa in a daze, he thought she was being bullied and immediately became angry. I'm going to kill him. After saying that, he turned around and prepared to chase Shu Liang. Shu Liang had been here several times before and asked her to go aside and play in the sand. He didn't do anything to Sha Qingqiu. If she knew that Shu Liang could use force, she would not let him and Sha Qingqiu be alone together even if she died. When she was hunted by her enemies, it was Sha Qingqiu who rescued her and finally avenged her, for which she was very grateful. Xiaoqi is back. Sha Qingqiu quickly stopped her. The short-haired girl turned back in confusion, and then discovered her blind spot. Apart from her clothes being a little messy, she was fine, and she couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In Sha Qingqiu's view, Xiaoqi is not only her subordinate, but also treats her as her own sister. To protect her, she must not be allowed to provoke Shu Liang. Outside the door, hearing the girl's angry voice, Lin Hao finally opened the hole and rushed in. Second senior sister. At a glance, he saw that Sha Qingqiu's hair was disheveled and his clothes were wrinkled, and he was so angry that he was separated from his body on the spot. After hearing Sha Qingqiu's explanation, he felt lucky again. Apart from being taken advantage of and looking like someone was being wasted, she didn't lose her virginity. In fact, he thought too much. How come Shu Liang's strength only lasted half an hour? Sha Qingqiu is an jinn, and should be as powerful as him. Walk out of the Pixingdayu bar. Shu Liang was just thinking about which heroine to find tonight, when he suddenly stopped. Then he continued to walk forward calmly, as if nothing had happened, but a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Go back to the Shu family compound. The driver drove conscientiously. After Shu Liang said where he wanted to go, his eyes fell in one direction through the car window. Interesting. There was an expression of interest on his face. Just now, he noticed a strong murderous intention. It's for him. The strength is not low, reaching the peak of dark power. The man hid very well, and his concealment skills were top-notch, but he still couldn't escape his perception. The other party is a killer. The god-level assassination skills he acquired were also taught to Skynet members, and that aura could not be hidden from him. Who could it be? Shu Liang raised his eyebrows, somewhat thoughtfully. It's really time to change the number of bodyguards. Why should anyone follow them? But having said that, what about the bodyguards rewarded by the system? You haven't come yet, maybe you're lost, right? The car drove smoothly on the street. A car fell some distance behind and followed quietly, not knowing that it had been exposed. Arriving at the Shu family's territory. There were strong men guarding the surroundings in the dark, and they soon discovered that someone was following them. But after receiving the news from Shu Liang, they chose to stay put and try their best to hide their figures. That's all. The following car unknowingly arrived at the Shu family compound, which can be said to have entered the territory of death. When Shu Liang's Rolls-Royce stopped in front of the compound, a Mercedes rushed up quickly and stopped after a gorgeous drift. Immediately afterwards, a fiery red figure came down and stopped in front of Shu Liang. Ding! The bodyguards have arrived. Please host to restrain yourself. Question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. Shu Liang, are you serious about the system? He could feel the strong killing intent from this woman. A person who came to kill me, you told me he was a bodyguard. Right, I remember when I drew the bodyguard reward, it was mentioned that bodyguards would appear in different ways. It's quite novel to show up by killing him. After withdrawing his mind, Shu Liang took a serious look at the killer. The killer was a woman, and a very beautiful woman, with an oval face that was too beautiful to be true. She was wearing a red dress, which seemed to be soaked in blood, giving people a sense of enchantment. Soon, he discovered something interesting. This female killer is actually lucky and has the aura of a protagonist. Could it be that he is the protagonist of a female novel? Shu Liangzhong guessed. Seeing how calm he was, the female killer frowned, becoming more and more certain of her suspicion. She has been in the Magic City for a while. By chance, she discovered the existence of the underground Colosseum. Seeing the scene that was like hell on earth, she, who had always been just, decided to defeat him. However, after secret investigation, she discovered that there was actually Grandmaster Wajan sitting inside. If she hadn't been at the top of her concealment skills, she would have been discovered. With nothing to do against the underground Colosseum, she decided to find out the mastermind behind the scenes. She is not only an excellent killer, but also a top hacker. Isn't it easy to find out who is behind the scenes? It's really not that simple, or rather, it can't be found. There were no clues, it was like it appeared out of nowhere. This made her think of Skynet, the mysterious and terrifying organization that suddenly appeared. Even under the investigation of her top hacking skills, she could not find it. This brings us to the reason why she came to Kyushu. She began to track down Skynet since she started doing evil in the dark world. At first she couldn't find anything. Finally, after a few months, she discovered something was wrong. That's right, just one thing, the direction Skynet transmits information is Kyujo. What happened at the underground training ground reminded her of Skynet. Is there any connection between the two? So she began to investigate the major forces in the Magic City. A mountain is hollowed out and cannot appear out of thin air. There must be support from big forces. After several days of investigation, he set his sights on Shu Liang. Everyone else is clearly visible under her top hacking skills. This was the only person she couldn't find out clearly. It should be said that it didn't match the facts. Since you can't find it, let's try it out. The thought of so many people dying because of Shu Liang made her murderous. Judging from Shu Liang's reaction at this time, it seems that she checked it correctly. To know, most people would have been frightened to death by her murderous intent. How could they look at themselves so calmly and leisurely? She asked coldly. Did you build Skynet? Shu Liang rubbed his chin and nodded. Yes. The female killer Flax was stunned for a moment. I didn't expect Shu Liang's answer to be so direct, and his murderous intention almost turned into reality. Are those people? Before she could finish speaking, Shu Liang said. I gave the order. His eyes were calm. Now that he has spoken out, he has no intention of letting this killer leave. There are only two options. Either die or surrender. The female killer stopped talking, her body was trembling, and her murderous intent was boiling to the extreme. Ding! Bloody Rose is so angry that she has a villain value of +999. Bloody Rose. Shu's conscience moved, searching for the memory of the Bloody Rose in his mind. Although he is not in the dark world, he knows everything about it. All information collected by Skynet will be sent to him. When it comes to bringing the heroine into the family, he usually doesn't have time to look carefully and only takes a cursory glance. This one glance is enough. He has the ability of photographic memory. Scarlet Rose, 25 years old, an orphan, was abducted and sold to a mercenary group since she was a child. During training, she stood out among the orphans. After countless days and nights of hard work, he gradually grew into a top killer. Unlike other killers, she only kills evil people. She won't take on tasks other than killing extremely evil people. When she encounters someone doing evil, she will kill them for free, and will even take the initiative to kill those who do evil. She is like a breath of fresh air in a dark world. Wherever there are people doing evil, she can be found, but she is extremely powerful and few people can match her. She seemed to like roses very much. After killing someone, she would always leave a rose petal behind. Gradually, the name of Bloody Rose spread. Tisk, it turns out to be a holy mother. Shu Liang clicked his tongue. I was already certain in my heart that this was the protagonist in a certain female novel. Orphan starts, top killer, top hacker, likes to do chivalry. She went wherever there was oppression. It can be said that Our Lady's behavior was very serious. At best, she's a holy mother, at worst, she's nosy. What does someone do that requires you to be busy? Moreover, even among the people she saved, were they all good people? You finally found the person who killed your family and spent money to find a killer to kill him, but you saved him. It's not surprising that the Bloody Rose found him. Her holy mother wanted to seek justice for the people Skynet killed, so she began to investigate Skynet, who was also a top hacker, and the villain and the protagonist sympathized with each other. Only then did we find him all the way. Thinking about it, she wasn't sure at first, otherwise she would have taken advantage of him and assassinated him. There are only a very small number of people who can figure things out like Yi Yuan. In fact, Shu Liang had no objection to this kind of holy mother. But if you interfere with him, you are seeking death. A bloody dagger appeared in her hand. Chiangwei's eyes were cold. I will avenge the hundreds of thousands of dead souls. After saying that, he quickly rushed towards Shu Liang. Because the speed was too fast, a red afterimage was drawn. Shu Liang curled his lips. The Holy Mother is like this, she likes to be moved by herself. Looking at the oncoming figure, he stretched out his hand and grabbed her neck. Rose was horrified. She was charging towards Shu Liang just now, and was just about to swing her dagger to wipe off Shu Liang's neck. The next moment, she was unable to move and was grabbed. It was like she ran over and was strangled by Shu Liang's neck. She wanted to fight back, but found that she couldn't move at all. Grandmaster Wajan. Only then did she feel Shu Liang's strength. Yes, if he can control so many Wajan masters, how could his strength be weak? This time she was careless. If it falls into your hands, I will kill or chop it into pieces at will, and I will never frown. But don't be complacent. You have killed so many people. You will be punished by law one day. You will be punished for all your bad deeds. Look, it's unyielding justice as soon as it comes out, and the protagonist is real. Ding. Bloody Rose is angry at you, and the villain value is +666. Shu Liang smiled brightly. He has already figured out how to deal with this heroine. Somehow, seeing the smile on his face, Chiangwei felt like her scalp was numb. Before she could say anything more, Shu Liang tapped her with his fingers several times. After letting go of her hand, she fell limply to the ground. This time it was harder than the few taps on Lin Hao's body. If you don't understand the acupuncture points, you can't open them without Shu Liang. Take him down and put him in the basement. To activate mind control, you must break her psychological defenses or make her willingly surrender. The heroine has a strong mind and is not so easily able to control servitude. However, he has plenty of means. As he finished speaking, two female bodyguards stepped forward and took Chiangwei to the basement. In the dark basement, there is no light to be seen here, no sound to be heard, only eternal darkness. Thick darkness enveloped her, and Chiangwei seemed to recall the fear she felt when she was a child and was abducted by human traffickers. She wanted to struggle and escape, but she didn't have any strength. He couldn't even bite his tongue and commit suicide. 1 hour, 2 hours, 5 hours. 10 hours passed. She was hungry and sleepy now, and the fear in her heart was gradually spreading. Click. At this time, the door was opened. She quickly looked over and saw Shu Liang walking in, holding a small leather whip in his hand. There was a woman following behind. Shu Liang looked at her with interest. Her hair is disheveled, and the tired look on her face shows that she hasn't slept all night. How can she still look the same as yesterday? Kill me. The voice is a little hoarse, which is caused by not drinking water all night. Killing is against the law, and I'm afraid of retribution, so why would I kill you? Shu Liang's tone was a little playful. Chiang Wei was speechless, knowing that he was teasing her with what she said yesterday. She began to regret coming to Shu Liang. I'm a little curious about how your killer organization handles mistakes made by subordinates. Ding. Bloody Rose is angry at you, and the villain value is plus 777. Ding. Bloody Rose has hatred for you, and the villain value is plus 888. Ding. Bloody Rose is afraid of you, and the villain value is plus 999. Bite. 10 minutes later. Rose curled up and trembled. Seemingly losing interest, Shu Liang handed the whip to the woman next to him. I'll leave her to you. As long as she's not dead, disabled or mentally ill, I'm still useful. After saying that, Shu Liang turned and left. Yes, sir, I promised to complete the mission. She is an instructor and was responsible for the training of Skynet killers. Not only is he proficient in killing techniques, he is also good at training and torturing people. Chapter 51. What? Dad, what did you say? Our hometown was demolished. A young man stood up suddenly and stared at his father without blinking. The young man's name is Yi Zan. He has just graduated and is looking for a job. Who knows that his father suddenly tells him that his hometown is being demolished? Then why don't you find a shitty job? Wouldn't it be nice to just lie down? I remember that our hometown is quite large, so it should be able to compensate a lot, right? He asked hopefully. Father Yi said with a smile. Of course, the demolition fee 50 million. After speaking, he also took out the contract. Yi Zan's head was a little dizzy, and he quickly looked closely, and sure enough he saw the amount of 50 million. He was excited. This feeling is countless times more satisfying than pie falling from the sky. Seeing his son's appearance, Father Yi smiled, and couldn't help but think of how he looked when he learned the news. It wasn't until he signed the contract and got the money that he completely believed it. Xiaoxuan, now that our family is rich, you can find me a daughter-in-law and don't have to worry about spending money. Also, our family has become prosperous, so those relatives and friends should also inform us. After a while, Yi Zan regained his composure. After hearing his father's words, his eyes flashed. Dad, wait a minute, don't notify those relatives and friends yet. Huh, what's wrong? Father Yi asked with some confusion. If we tell them the news, what should we do if they ask us to borrow money? After a pause, Yi Zan continued. It's okay to borrow money. Relatives should help each other, but we just don't know which of these relatives are really on the same page as us. After hearing his son's words, Father Yi nodded thoughtfully, feeling that it made sense. Seeing that his father had listened, Yi Zan pretended to be mysterious and said, do you want to know the true identity of those relatives? You mean, Dad, let's pretend to be bankrupt. Yi Zan's family is considered a well-off family. My father opened a fruit factory. He didn't make much money every year, but he had no problem with food and clothing. Father Yi also thought of his son's plan and hesitated. We pretend to be bankrupt and then borrow money from them to see who is willing to lend it to us. These are our real loved ones and friends. What's there to worry about? If those relatives won't even lend me any money, do we still need to move around? Yi Zan continued to persuade. He was also inspired by a video he watched. In the video, a man won the lottery. After telling his relatives and friends, they all asked him to borrow money, and he happily borrowed it. When he has spent almost all the money, when he goes to pay those people back, they all pretend to be deaf and dumb. So, he decided to do the opposite. Strike first to gain the upper hand. Use bankruptcy as an excuse to ask them to borrow money, and if they borrow it, it means they are real relatives. Not borrowing means that you don't have them in your heart, and they won't take action when you need help in the future. After making up a reason, the two began to make phone calls and send messages. Father Yi, third brother, our family is bankrupt and we still owe 5 million. Can I borrow some money from you? Oh, our family is also in difficulty. We have 2 children studying at home and we really can't afford the money. You can ask others. Father Yi was dumbfounded. If I remember correctly, my third uncle's family made several million from a project this year. They also bought a new car and a new house, right? Father Yi continued to call. Brother Li, our family is bankrupt. Toot toot. I really don't know if I don't call. On weekdays, they are brothers, and they are closer than anyone else when they meet. When in trouble, one of them can run faster. It really answered that sentence. We are brothers in our hearts. If something happens, I can't get through on the phone. Father Yi was busy testing friendship, and Yizan was not idle either. He clicked into the group of classmates. After graduation, what are everyone doing? It feels like it's hard to find a job now. I have been an intern at Huawei for a few months and have just become a full-time employee. Thank you for the invitation. I'm in a beautiful country. I just got off the plane and I'm about to go to Thailand to die. I really envy you for having such a fulfilling life. I have a lot of houses at home, so I just collect rent with a sack when I have nothing to do. My life is monotonous and boring. Quote. All the news was from Versailles. At this moment, a sudden message popped up. Yizan, students, our family is bankrupt and owes 5 million. Can I borrow some money from you? I will definitely pay it back. I just became a full-time trainee and I haven't received my salary yet. In a beautiful country, people spend a lot of money and their living expenses are not enough. I haven't collected this month's rent yet. I should have some spare time in a while. No money. Yizan looked at the news with a true expression on his face. This is reality. Fortunately, I was wise and saw their true colors in advance. He sneered, I wonder how you will feel when you know that my family is not bankrupt and is still a multi-millionaire. Suddenly, the sneer on his face froze. You have been kicked out of the group chat by the administrator. Yizan. He knew that these people would not lend him money, but he did not expect that in order to prevent him from asking, he would be kicked out of the group directly. Good, very good. Yizan laughed in anger. Gradually, he calmed down and did not need to be angry with these people. Then he set his sights on the next target. Li Xiaoming, the study committee member of their class, the class flower and the school flower. Li Xiaoming is a celebrity in the school. She gets a lot of scholarships every year. She has countless suitors, but none of them succeeds. He is one of them. But Li Xiaoming was too dazzling at that time. He was just a little transparent in the class. Although he admired her in his heart, he did not dare to show his palpitations. It's different now. The 50 million yuan demolition payment gave him the confidence to talk to the goddess. Clicking on Li Xiaoming's chat interface, he copied the same words and sent them over. Although she is a goddess, he still needs to test her. Seeing that the message has been read, Yizan couldn't help but get nervous, afraid of being rejected by the other party. How much do you want to borrow? When he saw this message, he almost jumped up. Li Shalwa is indeed different from others. She still values the friendship between classmates. He quickly sent another message. Any amount is fine. Ding. Goddess, transfers 100,000 to you. Yizan opened his mouth wide, his face full of disbelief. This is 100,000. Many people may not be able to earn this amount after working for a year. And what about Li Xiaoming? Hearing that he was in trouble, she transferred the money without saying a word. Could it be? Yizan couldn't help but think about it. If she didn't like him, how could she transfer so much money without hesitation? On the other side, Magic City Airlines, in the manager's office. After transferring the money, Li Xiaoming's family no longer cared. 100,000, for her in the past, may be a large sum. But since she followed Xu Liang and became the company manager, she has never worried about money again. In her opinion, her classmate's family went bankrupt, and she transferred 100,000 based on the principle of helping if she could. She didn't even expect the other party to pay it back. If the other party doesn't pay it back, 100,000 yuan will allow her to see a person clearly, which is a good deal for her. The next morning, Yizan started from home and went to the trade city first, where he changed into brand name clothes. Went to rent a Lamborghini again. Standing next to the car, he immediately attracted countless eyes. Opening the evil map, he came to Magic City Airlines. Some time ago, I don't know who said in the group that the beauty of Li University works here. Li Xiaoming is a school beauty with countless suitors. In the past, he could only secretly fall in love with her. It's different now. He also wanted to try to embrace the goddess who was beyond his reach before. What's more, she might be somewhat interested in him. Otherwise, it would be impossible to lend him 100,000 at once. With excitement, Yizan got out of the car and took out a bouquet of flowers. The security guards at the door saw that he was wearing famous brands and his car was a Lamborghini, so they thought he was a big customer and did not stop him. Wow, I feel like that person is so stylish. I wonder which young master from a big family he is. He's a bit handsome. Paired with his Armani outfit, he does look a bit elegant. What are you Jime waiting for? Come on, maybe someone will take your fancy. This is an opportunity to marry into a wealthy family. Quote. Walking on the road, hearing the praises of the stewardesses around him, Yizan felt extremely comfortable. Suddenly, he frowned. Then I remembered, isn't the job of the campus beauty of Lee University a stewardess? If he had already completed the training and started working, wouldn't his trip have been in vain? He quickly asked a passing girl, "Are you here to see Manager Lee? She is in the office building." The girl was a little surprised, looked him up and down, and shook her head. Although this man is a bit handsome, he looks quite wealthy. But compared with Manager Lee's boyfriend, he is like a man in heaven. In other words, there is no comparison at all. Yizan didn't notice the girl's strange gaze, and he was stunned. Did he hear it correctly? Li Xiaoming is the publicity manager of Magic Capital Airlines. This is simply unbelievable. Li Xiaoming just graduated like them. Even if she doesn't have classes in her senior year, she doesn't have to be so exaggerated if she comes early for an internship, right? Think about the classmates who all pretend to be good at their jobs. Compared with the beauty of Lee University, she is far behind, okay. Sure enough, a school beauty is a school beauty. She is so outstanding in school, and even more outstanding in society. Modu Airlines is a Fortune 500 company. As a manager, you have to have an annual salary of several million, right? After accepting the fact, he felt a sense of embarrassment. Originally, he bought this outfit and rented a Lamborghini just to show off in front of the beauty of Lee University. This also shows that he is a hammer. People don't look down on these at all, right? Immediately, an idea emerged from the bottom of my heart uncontrollably. Li Xiaoming must be chased. He became a manager of a Fortune 500 company right after graduation, and his future is limitless. There will definitely be so many suitors in the future that they will be lined up from the Demon City to the Imperial City. Before anyone discovered this treasure yet, he took it first. Thanks. After thanking the girl, Yizan quickly walked towards the office building of the propaganda department. Propaganda department. Manager's office. Li Xiaoming had just reviewed the documents submitted by his subordinates and was sitting in his office chair in a daze. Shyness, happiness, satisfaction. All kinds of emotions flashed across his face. She recalled the scenes of meeting and falling in love with Xu Liang. A few months ago, she finished her flight attendant training and met Xu Liang the first time she got on the plane. She will never forget the first time she saw Xu Liang. Sitting by the window, he held a book in his hand and had a tranquil and aloof temperament. That scene was poetic and picturesque, it was fixed in her heart. After being stunned for a long time, she pushed the cart to Xu Liang. "Sir, the coffee you asked for." "Thanks." Xu Liang raised his head, his eyes were as deep as stars, and the smile on his face was as refreshing as spring breeze. The two have intersected since then. In the subsequent interactions, she felt more and more that Xu Liang was extremely outstanding, which made her feel ashamed even though she was outstanding. With his knowledge level, which he had won many awards in school, he was like a child in front of Xu Liang. No matter what he said, he could speak it clearly. Later, she discovered that Xu Liang was not only good but also a little bad. She is often asked to wear various stewardess uniforms, black silk, white silk, silk stockings, lace. When she thought about their footprints in the office, including the desk in front of her, her pretty face grew hot with embarrassment. "Manager Lee, there is someone outside who asked to see you." He did not make an appointment and was stopped outside the office building. A female secretary knocked on the door and came in and said, Li Xiaoming woke up from her memories, frowning slightly and feeling a little unhappy. I am thinking of the happy times with Brother Liang. Who is this blind guy? After hesitating for a moment, she decided to go out and take a look. When she came outside, she frowned when she saw the young man stopped by the guard. This person feels a little familiar. Xiaomeng, it's me. Seeing the campus beauty Li coming out, Yizan raised his hand to say hello. Please call me by my full name. Li Xiaomeng frowned and asked in confusion, who are you? Well, the smile on Yizan's face froze. I'm Yizan. I borrowed money from you yesterday. Li Xiaomeng looked thoughtful, and after a while, she remembered what happened. Last night, a classmate did say that his family was bankrupt and asked her to borrow money. Just thinking about her classmates, she transferred 100,000 yuan to him. But she soon frowned deeper and deeper. Looking at Yizan's famous brand, how does he look like he is bankrupt? She felt that she had been deceived, and her face looked a little ugly. Just listen to Yizan's voice. School beauty Li, I heard that you like lavender. I specially went to the largest flower shop, Four Seasons Flower Sea, to buy this for you. As he spoke, he handed the flower in his hand in front of him. I don't like lavender. Li Xiaoming's expression was indifferent, and she turned around and returned to the office, leaving behind a cold word. Quote. Yizan's hands were still raised in the air. He felt extremely embarrassed when he noticed the sarcastic glances from the security guard next to him. Looking at the lavender in his hand, he gradually frowned. He heard from a suitor of the beauty of Li University that his favorite flower was lavender. I really believed him. You don't even know what flowers people like, you deserve to be thrown into the street. Shu family courtyard. Shu Liang looked at the woman in front of him with some surprise. A foxy oval face, combined with the enthusiasm in her eyes, gave people a sense of weirdness. He didn't look closely yesterday, but today, after removing the heavy makeup on her face, her appearance was not inferior to those heroines. The person standing in front of him was Yi Yuan, who guessed part of his identity and knelt down to show her submission to him. Retracting his gaze, Shu Liang picked up a cup of tea and took a sip. How are you going to deal with those idiots? The voice was flat, but it seemed to have a magic that penetrated people's hearts. In terms of force, I am not their opponent. But they are not prepared for me now, and poisoning them can solve all the problems. Yi Yuan's tone was full of strong confidence. If you want to follow this person, you must show your value. Shu Liang didn't care about these details. She was called here today to deal with this uncertainty. You don't have to solve all of them. It's still useful to keep some. This game is interesting only when both sides are evenly matched. Looking at Shu Liang, who seemed to treat all people as chess pieces in his every move, Yi Yuan was so excited that she trembled all over. Then she pondered and considered the possibility of controlling those people. Don't worry, I will give you the power to control them. She looked up suddenly. Just like a magic trick, a small metal box appeared in Shu Liang's hand. As a switch was pressed, the metal box opened and a layer of white gas came out. It was similar to the mist produced by the evaporation of dry ice. In the dense white mist, a potion lay quietly. Before she could marvel, she was attracted by the style of the potion. Her body trembled, her eyes flashed, and she felt a trace of desire in her body. This genetic medicine. Hey, that stuff is just a product diluted dozens or hundreds of times, and it is completely incomparable with genetic medicine. For the genetic medicine that countless bigwigs crave, Shu Liang's tone is full of undisguised disdain. This genetic medicine is different from other medicines. After obtaining the god-level medical skills, he added some medicinal materials to make the medicine more effective and gentler, without damaging the foundation. With this medicine, Yi Yuan can break through to the dark energy without any obstacles, and even continue to improve. After killing the leader Zhang Xiaoshan, it will be no problem to control the Wolf League. Master, Yi Yuan is willing to be your loyal dog, and bite wherever you point. Yi Yuan knelt down directly, and the fanaticism in her eyes could not be concealed at all. Seeing the genetic medicine, the guess in her heart has been confirmed, and even the name has changed directly. A smile appeared on Shu Liang's face. With a thought, the mind control skill was activated. Yi Yuan didn't change much, but the fanaticism in her eyes when she looked at him became stronger. Shu Liang raised his eyebrows slightly, and he didn't feel any resistance from Yi Yuan. In other words, she would do whatever she was told to do, even if she died. She is really sick. This kind of admiration for the strong has become perverted. No one wants to deal with a pervert. But what if it is a pervert who is loyal to you? When such a lunatic has power and the support of the forces behind him, Shu Liang is somewhat looking forward to what kind of excitement she will bring to the world. The days to come will not be boring. Yi Yuan took the gene medicine and gave herself an injection without hesitation in front of Shu Liang. After the injection, she felt warm all over and felt extremely relaxed. The next moment, a breath burst out from her body. She reached the dark power so easily. The shackles that could never be broken were lifted just like that. Yi Yuan also understood why Skynet had so many strong people at this time. With this gene potion, as long as time is enough, it is not difficult to unify the world. Then she knelt on one knee to Shu Liang again. Thank you for the reward, master. Get up. Shu Liang's face was calm, and Yi Yuan's breakthrough was not beyond his expectations. Suddenly, his eyebrows moved, and he thought of the bloody rose in the basement. I wonder if sending this madman down will have any unexpected effect. Come with me, help me train someone. He put down the teacup, got up and walked towards the basement. Yi Yuan followed silently behind him. Basement. Rose was already dying, but she supported herself with a will and did not surrender and beg for mercy. Click. The door opened, and Shu Liang and Yi Yuan walked in. She raised her head slightly, and a hint of sarcasm appeared at the corner of her mouth. Is that all you can do? Ding. Bloody Rose is angry with you, villain value plus 666. Ding. Bloody Rose is hateful towards you, villain value plus 555. Shu Liang had no expression on his face. He arranged for Skynet instructors to train her, and the punishments he used might be somewhat inhumane, but they were not beyond the scope of human beings. Bloody Rose could become a top killer, and she also had the aura of a protagonist, so she was naturally not an ordinary person. This woman calmed down after a little panic at the beginning. No matter how you torture her, she has no reaction, resulting in less and less villain value. It will take a long time to wipe out her protagonist halo. So, he brought this madman down to try. Snap, a small whip fell, and Rose trembled but held on without making a sound. The Skynet instructor came to Shu Liang with a guilty look on his face. Young master, you go down first, she sighed lightly. Shu Liang has many subordinates, and she originally wanted to gain more trust by completing this mission. I didn't expect this woman to be so strong. Yi Yuan has been looking at this Bloody Rose since she entered the room. Hearing her disrespectful words to Shu Liang, her eyes flashed with bloodthirstiness. In her heart, the master is everything, and no one can blaspheme. Rose happened to see her eyes, and her scalp numbed immediately, as if she was stared at by some devil. She will be handed over to you, Shu Liang said and left. Watching him go away respectfully, Yi Yuan slowly closed the door. This was the master's first mission, and she must complete it. There was no, try your best, only, sure. Her eyes became more ferocious and bloodthirsty, and when she looked at Chiangwei, a wicked arc appeared at the corner of her mouth. Let's play a game. Afternoon. Mudu Airlines. Yi Zan came to the door again. Not knowing what flowers Li Xiaoming liked, he simply didn't buy them and gave her a gift directly. Holding a beautifully decorated box in his hand. However, when he reached the door, he was stopped by the security guard. Stop, what are you doing? In the morning, he thought this guy was a customer and didn't stop him, causing him to be scolded by his superiors. Let anyone in, who will be responsible if something goes wrong. This didn't bother Yi Zan, he placed an order on the spot and became a real customer. Came to the propaganda department building and met Li Xiaoming, who was about to go out. Xiaoming, I liked you in college, but you were too outstanding at that time, so I could only watch you from afar. Now, God has given me a chance, I will definitely not miss it, be my girlfriend. After saying that, he opened the box in his hand, and an exquisite necklace lay quietly inside. The necklace was very unique, and it was inlaid with a diamond, worth at least hundreds of thousands. However, Li Xiaoming didn't even look at it. Even before Yi Zan finished speaking, she turned around and left, leaving a message. Kick him out, I don't want to see him again. The guard heard this and a layer of cold sweat oozed from his forehead. Manager Li was angry. He didn't dare to neglect it, and quickly called a few security guards to come and drive them out. Looking at Li Xiaoming's back, Yi Zan was not angry. On the contrary, he was more determined to pursue her. He admired her character, who was not moved by external things and did not love vanity. It was normal that she could not pursue her for the time being. You know, Li Xiaoming didn't know how many pursuits she had faced in 4 years of college, and none of them succeeded. You know how difficult it is. But he would not give up. If he missed such an excellent woman, he would be punished by God. An afternoon passed. As soon as Xu Liang walked into the basement, a series of prompts sounded. Ding. Bloody Rose's mentality collapsed. Villain value plus 1000. Ding. Bloody Rose was terrified. Villain value plus 1000. Ding. Bloody Rose was unstable. Villain value plus 1000. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. Xu Liang was suspicious and looked closely, only to see that most of the luck above the heroine's head had disappeared. At this time, she huddled in the corner, trembling. Occasionally raising her head, looking at Yi Yuan with fear in her eyes. It seems that letting this pervert come down for training was the right thing to do. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Rose's body trembled. As if she had found a life-saving straw, she used the last bit of her strength and ran towards Xu Liang. Please, kill me, she is a pervert, a lunatic. I don't want to stay with her. Before she ran to Xu Liang, a figure blocked her way. It was Yi Yuan. She didn't dare to go forward anymore. She stepped back step by step, her face full of fear. Master. Yi Yuan looked at Xu Liang with expectation, like a child who had done something well and was waiting for praise. Not bad, I'm satisfied. Xu Liang reached out to touch her head. Seeing this, Yi Yuan immediately leaned her head forward, with a happy expression on her face like a cat being stroked by its owner. Chang Wei's pupils shrank sharply when she saw this scene. It was unbelievable that this perverted guy was as docile as a cat in front of Xu Liang. Master, what do you want to let me go? She asked weakly. Yi Yuan asked her to call him this. She was also famous in the dark world, but now she has fallen to this point. But she never wanted to be alone with Yi Yuan again. As long as Xu Liang's conditions were not excessive, she would agree. Xu Liang stroked Yi Yuan's head while looking at the heroine. I was a little curious about what happened to make this fearless Blood Rose so scared. Let you go. After a pause, Xu Liang smiled jokingly, do you think it's possible? The glimmer of hope on Rose's face was shattered. She felt that her future was dark and her heart was dead. Submit to me. Looking up, she saw Xu Liang looking at her expressionlessly, his eyes full of majesty. Rose's face kept changing, with fear, humiliation, and struggle. Xu Liang just told her her final destination and didn't look at her again. Before she got rid of her protagonist halo, even if she was willing to surrender, Xu Liang would not believe it. Xu Liang looked at Yi Yuan and took his hand back. Go back and deal with your business. I will call you when I need you. Okay, master. Feeling Xu Liang's hand leaving, Yi Yuan was a little reluctant. By the way, I have a piece of news for you. Remembering something, Xu Liang said. Sha Qingqiu has a guy named Lin Hao by her side. He is her junior fellow apprentice and has reached the peak of dark energy. He didn't deal with Lin Hao directly, but told Yi Yuan the news to see her ability. Yi Yuan was thoughtful. Xu Liang had already told her about this game. Let the Wolf League compete with the Xingyu Club. The Wolf League represents Xu Liang, and he can't let the master down. According to the master, this guy named Lin Hao is indeed a trouble. When they fight without knowing, they will definitely lose. But now that they know, they can kick Lin Hao out in advance. Thank you for telling me, master. Go. Before leaving, Yi Yuan gave Qiangwei a bloodthirsty look, which scared her to tremble. After handing her over to the Skynet instructor, Xu Liang also left. He wanted to check the surveillance. What did Yi Yuan do all afternoon? In the room, Xu Liang was watching the surveillance footage of Yi Yuan's training. Where did you find the feather? Are you trying to make her unable to stop? Blindfolded, is this to expand her perception? Tisk, really perverted. Xu Liang seemed to have opened the door to a new world, ready to call a woman to calm him down. Whose name should I turn over today? His fingers dragged through the address book, and finally landed on a name. Ren Shanshan, promoted by Xu Liang to be the company's financial manager. Together with Shui Yorong and Li Wanjin, they are known as the three golden flowers of the Xu group. I went out with Li Wanjin to inspect the branch company before, and originally planned to come back together. Her sister Ren Feifei came to see her during the holiday, and took her out to play for a few days, and only came back today. Xu Liang immediately called her. The call was quickly connected, and a voice full of surprise came. President, come to me. Without asking for her opinion, Xu Liang issued a notice. Just after hanging up the phone, the ringtone suddenly rang, and another woman called. Towards evening, the afterglow of the setting sun fell on the earth, reflecting a golden color. Yi Zan came to Magic City Airlines again. But this time, he couldn't get in no matter what. It was Li Xiaoming who gave the order. Yi Zan had no choice but to wait at the door. Li Xiaoming has to get off work, right? This wait lasted for more than an hour. It was getting dark, and when Li Xiaoming came out of the company gate, he ran over immediately. Before he could get closer, a figure blocked his way. She is Li Xiaoming's secretary. To be precise, it was Xu Liang who placed her next to Li Xiaoming, both for protection and surveillance. Her eyes narrowed slightly. This guy had appeared 3 times in a row, and it was time to report it. How to deal with it depends on Xu Liang's orders. Yi Zan stopped and looked at Li Xiaoming with affectionate eyes. Xiaoming, I don't know what you like. I bought you this bag. I heard that girls like it. As he spoke, he handed the bag in front of him and scratched his head honestly. It's still a Chanel brand. Also worth hundreds of thousands. In the eyes of ordinary people, this is indeed a high-end luxury product. But after following Xu Liang, Li Xiaoming knew what the real upper class meant. These familiar famous brands are just average in their eyes. Real luxury goods are hand-customized by the world's top masters. I don't know how high the level is. She frowned. I originally thought that rejecting this guy twice would make him quit, but I didn't expect to give up. There is no way to continue like this. He cheated himself out of 100,000 yuan, and now he feels sick when he sees this Yi Zan. What if I come to see you every day? I don't need these things. She was angry but did not lose her elegance, and said in a cold tone. Yi Zan didn't seem to hear it, and his face was still sincere. Then tell me what you like. Even if it's the moon in the sky, I'll pick it for you. Stop doing these meaningless things. How could it be meaningless? I won't give up. I already have a boyfriend. After saying that, Li Xiaoming left with his secretary, leaving Yi Zan stunned on the spot. It took him a while to come back to his senses, and then he patted his head. I almost believed it. Li Daxiaohua has rejected so many people in 4 years of college. How could he find a boyfriend right after graduation? It must be her excuse for rejecting others. Anyone who believes it is a fool. The battle was unsuccessful today and will continue tomorrow. He didn't believe it. He comes to see her every day, and even a stone made of iron will be moved. Will she not feel it? Sitting in the car, Li Xiaoming became more and more angry as she thought about it. This Yi Zan is very annoying. He came to see her 3 times a day. It would be nice if Xu Liang was here. Let him know what the gap is. So she called Xu Liang. Here, Xu Liang received a call from Li Xiaoming, and his sweet voice came. Brother Liang, where are you? I miss you. Then you come to me. Xu Liang raised his eyebrows. It was just a fight with the landlord. He could kill 2 civilians easily. No, no, no. I'm having a hard time lately. Li Xiaoming shook his head in fear. Then I remembered the purpose of looking for Xu Liang. Why did we start talking about this? Brother Liang, let me tell you something. There is a guy who came to me several times. Immediately, she told the story of Yi Zan coming to her 3 times without any concealment. He even asked her to borrow money. Xu's conscience moved. He said that his family was bankrupt and asked someone to borrow money, but he ended up wearing famous brands and spent hundreds of thousands on gifts. Let's say it's money fraud. He buys gifts to give to people who borrow money. No matter how you look at it, it is not something that a normal person can do. It's more like the protagonist in the novel pretending to be bankrupt to test the sincerity of others. This is interesting. Shu Liang's eyes flashed with interest. He is not sure, he still needs to investigate, and he will have to see the real person tomorrow to find out. I'll come find you tomorrow. After receiving Shu Liang's promise, Li Xiaoming made a, yeah, gesture to herself in her heart. Shu Liang was usually very busy and rarely came to see her, so she would try calling. I didn't expect it to be successful. That Yi Zhan is not useless. If Yi Zhan knew that he had confessed his love 3 times but made no progress at all. On the contrary, Li Xiaoming changed her mind about Shu Liang because she could see him. I don't know what his expression will be like. Shu Liang was checking Yi Zhan's information at this time. Yi Zhan, male, 23 years old, lives in No. 67th Street, Dongcheng. 6 months ago, the Yi family's old house was demolished. The procedures were completed 3 days ago, and the demolition fee was 50 million. 1 day ago, Yi Zhan and Yi's father called and sent messages to ask someone to borrow money in the name of bankruptcy. Seeing this, he was almost certain that Yi Zhan was the protagonist. It feels like the protagonist is getting weaker and weaker. I don't know how much luck I can harvest from him. Hope he won't be too disappointed. At this time, the sound of brakes was heard outside the door. Not long after, a tall, graceful and beautiful woman walked in. It was Ren Shanshan, brother Liang. She was also very happy to see Shu Liang. It was unbelievable that the cold manager in the company fired him for a disagreement. At this time, he showed such a little girl's attitude. Shu Liang stretched out his hand and hugged her. Ren Shanshan did not resist, and snuggled in his arms, feeling the strong masculine breath. Shu Liang raised her chin. I haven't seen you for more than 10 days. Do you miss me? Of course I do, every day. She was a little shy, but there was no one around, and her relationship with Shu Liang was already deeply rooted. Not to mention such intimate topics, even the 4-person mahjong in the company before, it is not that they have not played. Oh, what do you miss me? Quote. Ren Shanshan buried her head, earnestly, grinning. Shu Liang stroked her hair, as if he mentioned it unintentionally. How was your outing with your sister? Her heart tightened, and she showed an unnatural smile. Fortunately, I took her to Disney and she had a lot of fun. Really? When will you bring her over? As a brother-in-law, it's reasonable for me to give my sister-in-law a gift. The next morning, Yi Zhan arrived at Magic City Airlines early. He couldn't get into the company now, so he could only see if he could wait for Li Xiaoming outside in advance. He waited until he got there. Just as he was about to step forward, a gust of wind passed by and the car had already entered the company. Question mark. Yi Zhan. In order to show his persistence and determination, he decided to wait for Li Xiaoming outside. So, he stood at the door of the company under the scorching sun. Everyone passing by was attracted by him. Wow, he is so perseverant. He is still standing there in such a big sun. Too happy, right? If I had a boyfriend who spoiled me so much. If I had this persistence, would I still be single until now? That's true, but you see, he looks like a dog. Quote. Ignoring the strange looks of the people around him, Yi Zhan knew something about Li Xiaoming's character. She is beautiful and kind. He believed that he would be moved by him in the end. After hearing the news from me, she will definitely come out to see me. She did come out, but it was near noon. Yi Zhan was sweating and dry-mouthed from the sun. Finally, seeing Li Xiaoming made him feel that his persistence was not in vain. Li Xiaoming also saw him and frowned. Why are you still here? I want to prove to you that I like you and I am serious. Do you think you are humorous? Quote. Li Xiaoming was impatient. I have already told you that I have a boyfriend, why are you still here? Don't lie to me, that's the rhetoric you use to reject others, I have seen through it. Yi Zhan's face was full of confidence. Li Xiaoming was completely speechless and was too lazy to say more to such a person. Suddenly her eyes lit up. I saw a familiar car coming and slowly stopped in front of her. Soon, Shu Liang got out of the car. Brother Liang, you are here. Li Xiaoming was delighted and hurried over. Shu Liang smiled, turned his wrist, and a handful of lavender appeared in his hand. I like the lavender in the Four Seasons flower sea the most. Brother Liang, you are the best. Li Xiaoming took it with surprise, put it to the tip of her nose and smelled it. The fragrance of flowers filled the air. Yi Zan, is this what you said about not liking lavender? At this moment, he felt like a knife stabbed in his heart, and the heartache was suffocating. No, wait a minute. He was shocked. How could it be such a coincidence? He had only pursued her for a day, and Li Xiaoming suddenly had a boyfriend. Did she find someone to pretend in order to give up her pursuit? There are many such routines in TV and novels. At this moment, Li Xiaoming reached out and took Shu Liang's arm, looking at Yi Zan. This is my boyfriend. She had a happy expression on her face. That intimate look, how could it be like an invited actor? Yi Zan felt a knife stabbed in his heart again. Impossible. Until now, he is unwilling to believe it. There were many young men who pursued Li Xiaoming during her 4 years in college, but they were all rejected mercilessly. She was disgusted with those dandy young men. But why was she still with this guy? Was she deceived? It was very likely that Li Xiaoming was relatively innocent when she first entered society, so how could she be a match for these old-timers? Then he looked at Shu Liang with a bad look. Shu Liang was also looking at him. He had a handsome face and a medium build, and he looked a bit like a protagonist. It was not beyond his expectation that Yi Zan was indeed a protagonist. Looking at the luck above his head, he suddenly felt a little uninterested. It was even less than Mu Bai's luck. Let's go, I'll take you to dinner first. Shu Liang retracted his gaze and looked at Li Xiaoming. Okay, my relatives are here today, I want to eat cucumbers. This, or should we eat it when we get home? Hate. Watching the two talking and laughing, Yi Zan was still stunned, feeling that his heart was stabbed again. It was not until the car started to drive away that he came back to his senses and hurriedly followed. He was unwilling to give up like this. He had to find out the situation. If Li Xiaoming was deceived, he must save her from suffering. Shu Liang found a private restaurant. The food here was more to his taste. Yi Zan also came, but he did not follow immediately, but planned to take a look secretly. Then he saw Li Xiaoming and Shu Liang snuggling together to order food, talking and laughing. He also saw the man's hand on Li Xiaoming's thigh, taking advantage of it. And what about Li Xiaoming? As if she didn't notice it, she still laughed with him. Seeing the goddess he liked being bullied like this, he finally couldn't help it. He stood up and walked to the table, but was stopped by the waiter halfway. Sir, may I ask who are you? At this time, the waiter who delivered the meal passed by, and Yi Zan rolled his eyes and said, I'm with them, so I'll pay for this meal. The waiter was a little hesitant at first, but when he heard that he was paying for this meal, the look he gave him changed. That was the look he gave to a rich man. Just like that, Yi Zan was no longer stopped, and he also enjoyed the vanity of a rich man. Why are you here? Li Xiaoming, who was chatting and laughing with Shu Liang, suddenly saw him, and her mood suddenly became bad. I'm here to eat, Yi Zan said with a smile, looking at Shu Liang. You don't mind if you add someone? I'll pay for this meal. This meal is very expensive. Li Xiaoming was kind and reminded him. Who knew that Yi Zan heard it, waved his hand, and smiled confidently. I can still afford a meal. I thought to myself that this guy wasn't that rich, and even a meal made the school beauty Li feel expensive. This is the typical psychology of nouveau riche. Okay, I have to thank you for your generosity for adding a pair of bowls and chopsticks. Shu Liang smiled slightly, making people feel warm as if in the spring breeze. He did not refuse the sucker who came to his door. According to the dishes just ordered, a full table would cost more than 200,000 yuan. He didn't care about the 200,000 yuan. He was just more interested in the protagonist's appearance when he paid the bill. Yi Zan was stunned. He thought the other party would not agree, and he was ready to push the limit. He couldn't help but look at this guy a little more pleasing to the eye. Li Xiaoming opened her mouth, but when she heard Shu Liang agreed, she didn't say anything. Li Xiaoming's eyes lit up when she saw a dish being served. That is Shu Liang's favorite dish. Immediately, she picked up the chopsticks, picked them up and prepared to put them into Shu Liang's bowl. Shu Liang dodged away and gestured towards his mouth. Her face turned red. After looking around, he put the chopsticks to Shu Liang's mouth. Yi Zan. He had just sat down and was about to taste what these delicious-looking dishes tasted like. Seeing this scene, I was instantly filled with anger. Looking at Shu Liang's hand underneath, moving back and forth, he suddenly turned green. He simply stopped eating and just stared at Shu Liang, asking him to calm down. And what about Shu Liang? Didn't care at all, while continuing to enjoy the silky smoothness, enjoy the feeding service of the hostess. Yi Zan was absolutely furious. Ding. Yi Zan is angry with you, villain value plus 333. Ding. Yi Zan has feelings of hatred towards you, villain value plus 444. Unknowingly, the meal ended with Li Xiaoming's service, Shu Liang's enjoyment, and Yi Zan's envy, jealousy, and hatred. Brother Liang, how was this meal? Li Xiaoming asked expectantly, with an expression ready for praise. It's okay, keep working hard next time. Shu Liang commented and then stood up. Let's go. I have time today and I'll play with you all day. Really? That's great. Li Xiaoming cheered. Yi Zan is stupid and full of doubts about life. Is this really the beauty of Li University that he knows? What's the difference between them and those silly, sweet, love-minded people? Sensing a line of sight falling on him, he looked closely at Shu Liang and looked at him with a faint smile. It dawned on him. I remember saying that I invited this meal to myself. Gu. I saw Shu Liang and Li Xiaoming were so angry just now, he hasn't moved his chopsticks yet. In other words, if you haven't eaten a bite of the meal, you still need him to pay the bill. Yi Zan's face was extremely dark. In front of the goddess, he couldn't lose face and called the waiter. What do you mean by coincidence? It was the same waiter who blocked the way just now. Yi Zan was confused when he heard the price. 234,000. Are you crazy? A meal costs more than 200,000 yuan. Are you trying to steal money? Immediately the expression on the waiter's face changed and he took out the price list. The price is clearly marked. If you don't believe me, you can take a look. His tone became colder. This guy just said so domineeringly, I'll take that table, but he didn't know the price for co-writing. Yi Zan took it over and looked at it, and his eyes went dark. Dragon liver and phoenix marrow 33,000. A row of egrets rising into the sky 24,000. Peacock flies southeast 14,000. I have never heard of any of these dish names. Seeing the troubled expression on his face, Li Xiaoming said something negative. I told you that this meal is very expensive. How about I pay for it? Feeling the gazes from all around, Yi Zan was embarrassed. I had no choice but to finish the appointment with tears in my eyes. Suddenly hearing Li Xiaoming's voice, he was shocked. How can you make the goddess pay? He immediately took out his phone and scanned the code. Seeing that the 1 million his father originally gave him to take a daughter-in-law back with him, more than $200,000 suddenly disappeared. Yi Zan's flesh ached endlessly. The most important thing is, he didn't eat a single bite of the food worth more than 200,000 yuan, which made him so angry that he vomited blood. While heartbroken, he couldn't help but feel ashamed of Shu Liang. The woman actually paid for the meal. This also made him feel more and more that Shu Liang was a liar and that the beauty of Li University had been defrauded of money and girls. Ding. Yi Zan is mentally unstable, villain value plus 555. After settling the bill, Yi Zan looked at the leftovers on the table and saw Shu Liang and Li Xiaoming walking outside. He could only follow with heartache. If he hadn't been looked at strangely by the waiter, or if he hadn't wanted to protect the campus beauty Li, he would have finished off these meals. That's a meal worth more than 200,000 yuan. I have never eaten something so expensive in my life, and I haven't eaten it now. Next, Yi Zan's suffering officially began. At Li Xiaoming's suggestion, the two came to the entertainment city. There was a tail following behind him, but Shu Liang didn't pay attention. The villains who come to your door are worth it. If you don't accept them, you won't accept them for free. Stopping in front of a claw machine, Li Xiaoming put in coins and started grabbing. Oh, it's too difficult to catch. Brother Liang, can you try? After grabbing it several times, she became a little frustrated and shook Shu Liang's arm. A vague feeling came, but Yi Zan, who was watching from a distance, was furious. Shu Liang smiled slightly, held her hand directly, and taught her how to hold it. Li Xiaoming blushed a little. Shu Liang was intimate with her in public, which made her feel very happy. Some are immersed in it and unable to extricate themselves. With a pop sound, a doll fell out. Ah, it's out, it's out. Li Xiaoming was very excited. Shu Liang behaved calmly. With his current strength as a master of Huajin, he has already mastered the power to the finest detail. Even if there is a problem with the machine, he can still catch it accurately. Seeing her excited face, Shu Liang raised his eyebrows. I taught you to catch it, is there any reward? Li Xiaoming didn't think much about it, and stood on tiptoe to peck Shu Liang on the face. Having had a deep-rooted relationship with him, such a move seemed very common to her. Yi Zan in the distance was stunned. Kissing. It felt like a few knives were stabbing at his heart again. Ding. Yi Zan's heart was like a knife, villain value plus 666. After Shu Liang caught another doll, Li Xiaoming called Liang Jyйds. She was not greedy, catching two was enough, and she continued with the next project. Soon, she was attracted by the electric motorcycle. Don't think that she is a good girl at home, a pure school beauty at school, and a cold manager at the company. In fact, she also likes to pursue a little excitement. For example, when she is with Shu Liang, she sometimes asks to look at herself in front of the mirror. She is a little moved, but she can't open it. Seeing her thoughts, Shu Liang smiled. Want to play? I'll take you. Ha! After completing the electric motorcycle, the two went to play other projects. An afternoon passed quietly. Shu Liang relaxed, and Li Xiaoming had a lot of fun, feeling extremely happy. Yi Zan also followed along the way, and was stuffed with dog food, and was so angry that he exploded. He felt that his heart had been pierced through and was riddled with holes. Ding! Yi Zan's mentality exploded, villain value plus 888. At night, Shu Liang and Li Xiaoming went back to her home. Yi Zan wanted to follow them, but was blocked by a car. He remembered that the man was Shu Liang's driver. Only then did he realize it. It turned out that Shu Liang had already discovered him and knew that he was following behind. He just treated him as a clown and teased him. He even deliberately teased him with Li Xiaoming. Yi Zan was furious and slapped the steering wheel of the rented Lamborghini. After a moment, he hurriedly checked it again. This car is not cheap, and he can't afford to pay for it if it is damaged. Li Xiaoming's home. Brother Liang, thank you for accompanying me. I am so happy today. Li Xiaoming was very happy, with a smile between her eyebrows. Shu Liang sat on the sofa with a playful expression on his face. Thank me, it's not just talk, you have to take actual action. Her face turned red, and she said helplessly. But I'm not convenient recently. That's not a problem, there are other ways. Shu Liang was playing with his phone while thinking about how to deal with this protagonist. He was moved. Isn't it pretending to be bankrupt to test the sincerity of relatives and friends? I wonder how they will look at Yi Zan's family after knowing the truth. It should be very interesting. Immediately, he edited a message and sent it out. The order was issued, and the rest of the things were left to his men to handle. He patted Li Xiaoming and pointed to the black silk suspenders next to him. Yi's father's third brother, Yi Zan's third uncle, was eating hot pot and singing in the newly bought house. With a ding sound, a message came. He picked it up and looked at it casually, and was immediately stunned. His wife pushed him. What's wrong? I lost a lot. Immediately, he told his wife the content of the message. There are 4 people in their Yi family. When the family was divided, the eldest, second and third decided to move out. The fourth was responsible for supporting the elderly, and the house was left to him. Now the old house is demolished for 50 million, and they can't get a penny. Do you think it's uncomfortable? Wait, didn't the fourth family go bankrupt? They asked you to borrow money 2 days ago. His wife found the point and suddenly said, is this TM bankrupt? Obviously they made a fortune. The third uncle was broken. It's more uncomfortable to see others make money than to lose money. Is he testing us? We didn't lend him money, so in the future. His wife's eyes flashed with wisdom. It must be like this, I'll ask the eldest brother and the second brother. The third uncle couldn't sit still, and quickly picked up the phone to call. After asking, he found that among all the relatives, only a few had lent money to Yi's father. He also told them about the demolition of the old house for 50 million yuan, and they were all furious. We treated you as a relative, but you actually tested our sincerity. What did you treat us as? Most of those who were furious did not borrow money. Some of those who borrowed money really treated Yi's father as a relative, but now they know that it was all fake and they were just testing them. Everyone felt extremely chilled. Immediately, one by one they called to question him. Old 4, isn't it a bit unkind of you to do this? You've made a fortune, but you're pretending to be poor to test us. Old 4 Yi, I'm really bad. We're relatives, but you're so afraid that we'll borrow money from you when we have money. I felt sorry for you at the beginning, but I was really blind. Don't contact us from now on. Quote. Yi's family. Yi's father took calls one by one, and he was dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, they were discovered when they tested their relatives. Hearing everyone say to cut off the relationship and not to contact him again, he was really panicked. Gotcha. At this time, the door was opened and Yizan walked in. Seeing his absent-minded father, he couldn't help but ask in confusion. Dad, what's wrong? Our test was discovered, and now those relatives want to cut off the relationship with us. Yizan was also a little confused. Humans are social animals and cannot live without communication. Even if he proposed to test people's hearts, it would only mean that he would not help those people when they asked for help in the future. I never thought of cutting off the relationship. Ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling. Suddenly, his cell phone rang. Yizan picked it up and saw that it was his childhood friend. He had a bad premonition in his heart. The call was connected. Okay, we have been brothers for more than 20 years, and you are playing me like this, right? Since you don't regard me as a friend, don't contact me again in the future. After saying that, the other party hung up the phone. Ding-ling-a-ling. Just after hanging up, the phone rang again. This time it was one of his classmates. Brother Zan, do you still need money now? The fire in my house has been put out. If you need it, I will give you the money for moving bricks right away. He wanted to borrow money from this classmate, but the other party directly said that his house was on fire and he had no time, and then ignored him. Unexpectedly, this time there was a huge reversal. The bad feeling in his heart became stronger and stronger. How did you know? Yizan was not stupid, and soon discovered the seriousness of the matter. Know what? Don't pretend. How did you know my house was demolished? Ah, okay, I saw it on the internet. You have to believe me, my house was really on fire at that time. Before he finished speaking, Yizan had hung up the phone, and he hurriedly went online. Shocked. Demolition of 50 million. Using bankruptcy as a reason to test relatives and friends. Is it the decline of morality or the distortion of human nature? This family actually attacked relatives and friends after they got rich. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. I don't know who exposed it and posted it online, and it was also on the hot search. Looking at the news with his photo information attached, Yizan's hands trembled a little. Not long after, one call after another came again. As expected, they were all questions to him. Finally, he was tired and turned off his phone directly, and didn't answer anyone's calls. The father and son sat on the sofa, looking at each other in silence. Ding. Yizan's mind is unstable. Villain value plus 666. Ding. Yizan's mentality collapsed. Villain value plus 888. On the other side, after washing up, Li Xiaoming was a little weak, but she didn't want to fall asleep. She cherished every minute with Xu Liang. At this time, she was leaning on Xu Liang's arms, swiping her phone. Suddenly, many new hot searches popped up. About having money after the demolition, borrowing money from relatives and friends on the grounds of bankruptcy to test people's hearts. Brother Liang, what do you think of this news? She looked up and asked Xu Liang's opinion. Of course I read it while plugged in. Xu Liang smiled slightly. It was arranged by him that these news could be on the hot search so quickly. Li Xiaoming rolled her eyes beautifully, and clicked in to take a look. Soon she found something wrong. Why do these exposed information look so familiar? Look at the person again, my goodness, isn't this Yizan? No wonder they either sent flowers or gifts. It turned out that their family had lost 50 million yuan in demolition. Wait. She remembered that Yizan had also borrowed 100,000 yuan from her, right? Is this a case of eating melons and then eating them back? Her face looked a little ugly. Although she didn't take the 100,000 yuan seriously, she didn't want to get it back after lending it out. But it's not easy for anyone to be tempted. Tisk, isn't this your classmate? At this time, Shu Liang suddenly pretended to be surprised. I don't have such a classmate. It would be better if he didn't mention it. Once Li Xiaoming mentioned it, her mood became worse. I lent him 100,000 yuan, no. I must ask him to pay it back. The next morning, Yi's house. The living room was filled with smoke. The father and son sat there all night without saying a word, and the ashtray was full of cigarette butts. Faced with relatives and friends severing ties with them one by one, they didn't know what to do. Yi Zan was panicked. This situation was completely beyond his expectations. Feeling that this was not a solution, Yi Zan picked up his phone and turned it on. Ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling, ding-ling-a-ling. Just after turning on the phone, a call came in, which scared the two of them. Yi Zan didn't want to answer it, but when he saw the caller ID, Goddess, he had to answer it. Give me back the money I borrowed from you. When the call was connected, Li Xiaoming had no extra words and her tone was cold. Xiaoming, listen to me. Beep beep beep. Yi Zan wanted to explain, but the call was hung up. The shame of being teased by Shu Liang yesterday, the panic of knowing that the matter was exposed in the evening, and the fatigue of the whole night, all broke out at this moment. He fell decadently on the sofa, lost his soul. Ding! Yi Zan's mentality exploded, villain value plus 999. Father Yi looked at his absent-minded son and couldn't help but feel disappointed, and regretted it in his heart. Why did he listen to Yi Zan's unreliable advice? Don't worry about other things, go to sleep first. Calm down. Since the thing has happened, you have to think about how to solve it. After a night of not sleeping, he was mentally exhausted, so he took a break to let his mind recover. Yi Zan also returned to the bedroom in a daze. He couldn't fall asleep lying on the bed, so he turned on the computer and prepared to read the news again. Suddenly a pop-up window appeared. Yi Zan clicked in and was stunned. This was a few days ago when he learned that his home was demolished, and he was excited and invested in several stocks. After not looking at it for a few days, he found that all of them had risen. The total investment was not much, only 100,000, and now it has risen to 300,000. Yi Zan was shocked, swept away the previous dejection, and his eyes were burning. Because his major involves stock trading, he knows more about it, but this is his first time to invest money in it. The first time he traded stocks, he made a full 200,000 in just 2 days. Is this the legendary, misfortunes are often accompanied by blessings, and blessings are often accompanied by misfortunes? Or, do I have a talent for stock trading? Suddenly, he thought of another question. What if I invest more? Investing 1 million, wouldn't I be able to make 3 million? But he didn't act impulsively and decided to try again. This time he also invested the remaining 500,000 in his card, combined with the 300,000 in the stock market, to make up 800,000. His sleepiness dissipated, and he searched in the stock market. He was very excited. Even if those relatives and friends broke off relations, what would happen? As long as he had money, would he be afraid of not having a good life? Not only that, he also saw the hope of winning back the goddess. Baekotang. Since the Chinese and Western Medicine Exchange Conference, Baekotang has become completely popular, and there is an endless stream of people coming here to see a doctor every day. There are a few more old Chinese doctors in charge of seeing a doctor. The employees were busy all day, feeling both pain and happiness. They also discovered a problem, that is, their shopkeeper seemed to have changed. It stands to reason that Chen Zhangjia should be happy about the rise of traditional Chinese medicine, but now she has a cold face all day long. Now she stays in her office all the time, and she is rarely seen at ordinary times. Sometimes she is found standing in front of the window with a sad face. So handsome, is he also here to see a doctor? Oh no, it's a heartthrob, I really want to get close to him. I'll pay 10,000, who can help me get his contact information? Tisk, I'm willing to pay 100,000. Quote. The sudden appearance of a figure in the hall immediately attracted everyone's attention. The people in Baekotang also noticed it, knowing that this was their shopkeeper's friend, and someone immediately led him upstairs. At this time, a girl had already gone upstairs to inform Chen Zhangjia. Bang bang bang. The door of Chen Zhangjia's office was knocked. Come in. She frowned, a little unhappy. Didn't I tell you not to disturb me and not to see anyone? The girl panted a little and said, Mr. Shu is here. Click. The pen in Chen Zhangjia's hand fell on the table, leaving a mark, and the whole person stood up excitedly. Where is he? Realizing that she had lost her composure, she slowly sat down again and calmed down. Since she treated the mother of the woman next to Shu Liang last time, the two hadn't seen each other for 3 days. She was very sad at first and felt that she was deceived. But Shu Liang never came to see her, and she began to think of Shu Liang's goodness. He appeared when she was desperate, helped her revive Chinese medicine, taught her various acupuncture methods, and helped her fulfill her wish. Gradually, she couldn't help but start to excuse Shu Liang. All this was voluntary. Shu Liang never said that he didn't have other women. And they were not in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. At this time, the effect of Shu Liang's previous layout was reflected. Bang bang bang. The door was knocked again. Chen Zhangjia came back to his senses, and before he could say, enter, the door was pushed open. Only that person could be so bold. As expected, Shu Liang's familiar figure walked in. The girl who informed the boss blinked, cast an ambiguous look at her own shopkeeper, and went out obediently, closing the door by the way. Shu Liang smiled and looked at the heroine who had been coldly bullied by him for several days. Chen Zhangjia was taking out an ancient medical book to read. She sat there quietly, and a ray of sunlight shone in through the window and hit the pages. This scene was like a poem and a painting. However, from the fact that the ancient book was upside down, it can be seen that her mood was not as calm as it seemed. What? Don't you welcome me? The voice that suddenly sounded in her ear scared her. It turned out that Shu Liang had come to her side at some point, looking at her with a playful look on his face. She also found that she was holding the book upside down, and turned her face away with a blush. Then, she felt a hand on her waist. Then, she fell uncontrollably into an embrace full of masculine breath. She wanted to struggle, but with her strength, how could she be Shu Liang's opponent? She was easily suppressed. Helpless, Chen Zhangjia stopped struggling. In fact, after she figured it out, her anger was mostly gone. Otherwise, she would not have kept the bodyguard sent by Shu Liang to protect her by her side. But she still had a little emotion and didn't want to pay attention to Shu Liang. But the voice that sounded afterwards made her completely panic. What can you learn from reading books? Let me teach you acupuncture. But this time the needle is a little bit bigger, you have to be patient. During this day, Shu Liang did not look for other women, and stayed with Chen Zhangjia all the time. He also taught her a new needle technique. He understood Chen Zhangjia's mood at this time very well. She was worried about gains and losses, and self-doubt. Only by being by her side could she relieve her emptiness and make her feel fulfilled. At night, Chen Zhangjia was exhausted and didn't even have the strength to move her fingers. Shu Liang was still energetic. He leaned against the head of the bed and read the information received today. The video about the news about the Bloody Rose had been watched, otherwise Chen Zhangjia would not have lost any strength. Just because Yi Yuan went there again today, the villain value rose up. It's not far from harvesting her luck. Lin Hao has been very calm recently, and he didn't do anything weird. It is worth mentioning that Yi Yuan is preparing to take action against the top leaders of the Wolf Alliance. It seems that there will be another good show tomorrow. Shu Liang was attracted by a piece of news about another protagonist, Yi Zan. After knowing that he was the protagonist, he has been under 24/7 surveillance. Including daily life, where he went in a day, what he did. Yi Zan did not go anywhere today. He stayed at home, sitting in front of the computer and fiddling with something. Through hacking, I found out that this guy has been speculating in stocks. A shocking thing happened. Almost all the stocks that Yi Zan invested in rose. He invested 800,000 in the morning, and it has doubled to 1.6 million now. Shu Liang was thoughtful. Could this be the protagonist's golden finger? Before, he was a little confused. This protagonist is far worse than the previous two. He said that he demolished 50 million, and ordinary people may also get it by luck. Why did he become the protagonist? There must be some golden fingers, right? Now it seems that his golden fingers are mostly for stock speculation. Xu Liang has no interest in this. With his power, a word can make the stock market turbulent and countless people bankrupt. Suddenly, an idea came up. Xu Liang smiled. He thought of how to deal with this protagonist. Don't you want to change your fate by investing in stocks? I'll help you. Not only will I let you invest in stocks, I'll also help you make more money. Investing in stocks is gambling. When he is addicted to it, that's when his despair begins. Yi's house. Yi Zhan sat in front of the computer, excitedly looking at the stock market data. He hadn't closed his eyes for 2 days and 1 night, but he wasn't sleepy at all. Because he found that he was actually a stock trading genius. Almost all the stocks he invested in had no losses. Suddenly, his eyes widened, and he saw that the stocks he invested in had risen again, and it was still a big rise. The total assets almost doubled again, and it has reached 3 million. Ha ha ha. Yi Zhan laughed, and stopped laughing until he was a little out of breath. Xu Liang, wait for me, I'll let you know the price of playing tricks on me. Xiaomang, I'll come to save you soon. His eyes were full of confidence. Little did he know that a script targeting him had slowly begun. The next day, Lin Hao came out of the rental house and headed for the Pixingdayu bar. He was driven out by Chen Zhangjia and was penniless. This rental house was found for him by second senior sister Xia Qingqiu. The price is that he is now helping out in the bar. Xia Qingqiu also told him about the game Xu Liang was going to play. If Xu Liang didn't participate, wouldn't he still be invincible? Lin Hao wished that day would come immediately and couldn't wait to slap Xu Liang in the face. He made a very pretentious promise. Second senior sister, don't worry, I'm here, there will be no accidents. Seeing his confident face, Xia Qingqiu was a little relieved. But she still asked him to be quiet recently and not to cause trouble. Walking on the road, thinking about the slapping of Xu Liang in the face soon, Lin Hao couldn't help laughing. The sky was clear, the rain stopped, and he felt that he was okay again. At this time, an old man came towards him. He didn't care, but when he passed by, the old man fell towards him. He instinctively went to help, but the old man fell to the ground. Whether it was in front of others or in the camera, it was Lin Hao who took the initiative to push the old man down. Lin Hao was confused. He looked at his hands and fell down with a slight touch. When did he become so powerful? Suddenly, the old man hugged him tightly, and the heart-wrenching sound of killing pigs rang out. Come quickly, someone is killing someone. Young people have no martial ethics and bully old men. Ah, my waist is broken, I'm going to die. Lin Hao. At this time, how could he not understand that he was hit by the legendary hit and run? He wanted to shake the old man off, but found that the old man hugged him tighter than a forced. He frowned and said impatiently, "Let go, I didn't push you. You are still quibbling, it was you who pushed me." The old man immediately quit and shouted. Lin Hao was furious. "I pushed you, who can testify?" "I testify, I saw it, it was you who pushed me." Suddenly, a young man stood up and pointed at Lin Hao's nose aggressively. As he stood up, several more people stood up to testify. This is a street in the city, and there are many people passing by. The excitement here quickly attracted a group of people to watch. What the hell? The old man was pushed back, is it true? The world is going downhill, people's hearts are not as good as before, bullying the old man in broad daylight, do you still have morality and conscience? Alas, I think it should be a hit and run. Is it that the old man has become bad, or the bad guy has become old? Quote. Quote. The crowd whispered. Except for a few people who called the police, most of them turned a blind eye to the matter. Now the pressure of life is already high, and they will not miss it when they finally have something to eat to relieve the pressure. Several young people denounced Lin Hao, and the more they scolded, the more excited they became. Are you still a human being? How old is the old man? You really have the guts to do it. Hurry up, are you an idiot? Why don't you send him to the hospital? What, you want to do it? Come on, hit me here, if you don't hit me, you have no guts. Hard, the fist is hard. Lin Hao's eyes gradually became dangerous. Seeing a young man pointing at his face provocatively and asking him to hit him. How could he bear this? He had never seen such a request in his life. Then, He punched him. Instantly, the young man's nose and face were swollen. Seeing their brothers being beaten, several young men were immediately angry and rushed up to take revenge. The fate of several people who attacked Lin Hao can be imagined, one by one lying on the ground wailing. Even the old man wanted to bite him in the middle, but he was knocked down by him. He is like a god of war. The onlookers were shocked by his force. Where did this tough guy come from? Don't you know that we are in a society ruled by law now? You beat people so fiercely, aren't you afraid of the police? Lin Hao enjoyed the expressions of these people very much. Just as he was about to leave, several police cars came roaring. They are robbing porcelain, I am self-defense. Whether it is self-defense, come back with us to investigate first. In the end, Lin Hao, several young people and the old man were taken away. After getting on the police car, he couldn't help but think of the small dark room and the cruel policewoman, and his scalp tingled. And in the Langxing Tianxia nightclub, a subordinate was reporting what happened here to Yi Yuan, one of the 4 vice leaders. After listening to the report, a bloodthirsty light flashed in her eyes. Yes, all this was arranged by her. Let someone touch Lin Hao, then provoke him to hit someone, and then be arrested together. The point is not the touch, but Lin Hao hit someone, and also hit the old man, making things complicated. In this case, even if he sees through the routine, Lin Hao will stay in there for several days and can't come out. When he comes out, the game is over. This is a method she came up with after Xu Liang told her about Lin Hao's strength. The method is rough but effective. Since you are strong and there is no way to do you secretly, then come out openly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.